Hello guys, welcome to Fictional Vortex. So in this video, we will see what if Naruto became a speedster with Speed Force Mastery. Naruto x Wonder Woman x Raven, DC. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1, Speed Force Awakening. The trees blurred past as Naruto leapt from branch to branch, his body moving on instinct while his mind processed Kakashi's mission briefing from earlier that morning. Strange energy readings, he muttered to himself, adjusting his headband. At 19, Naruto had grown into his role as one of Konoha's elite jonin, though the orange and black outfit remained his signature look, despite Sakura's constant nagging to dress like an actual adult ninja. The weird energy signatures had first appeared 3 days ago, strange fluctuations that made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. Even Kurama had been restless, growling about dimensional instability and other cryptic warnings that Naruto only half understood. "You feel that?" Naruto asked aloud, knowing the Nine Tails could hear him. "Getting stronger," Kurama rumbled within him. "Whatever it is, it's not natural to our world." Naruto landed on a massive branch and paused, extending his senses. The forest had gone eerily quiet, no birds, no insects, nothing. Just ahead, the air seemed to ripple, like heat waves rising from sun-baked stone, except these waves curved in impossible directions. "Definitely the energy source Kakashi-sensei mentioned," Naruto said, creating a shadow clone with a quick hand sign. "Go back and report what we found." His clone nodded and took off, while Naruto edged closer to the phenomenon. The distortion grew more pronounced, a spinning, pulsing tear in reality that seemed to both pull and push at once. Blue-white energy crackled around its edges, sending out waves of force that made the trees groan. Naruto reached for a kunai, but his hand froze mid-motion as a surge of energy washed over him. The rift expanded suddenly, tendrils of lightning-like energy reaching out and wrapping around his limbs. "What the?" Naruto started, trying to form a Rasengan, but the strange energy interfered with his chakra control. He felt himself being pulled toward the rift, his feet dragging across the branch despite his resistance. "Naruto!" Kurama roared inside him. "Something's breaking through the dimensional barriers. We need to." Whatever Kurama was about to say was cut off as Naruto was yanked violently forward. The world around him distorted, stretched, and then shattered into fragments of color and light. His body felt simultaneously compressed to the size of a pinpoint and expanded across infinity. Through the chaos, Naruto sensed something else, a vast, primal energy unlike anything he'd encountered before. Not chakra, not natural energy, but something else entirely. It surged toward him like a tidal wave, crackling with yellow lightning. "The dimensional barrier is weakening your seal," Kurama warned, his voice distorted. "My chakra is leaking into whatever this energy is." Naruto couldn't respond. The foreign energy collided with his chakra network, racing through pathways designed for an entirely different power. Where his chakra was like a flowing river, this energy was an electrical storm, wild and untamed. Searing pain filled every cell as the two forces fought, merged, and transformed. Time lost all meaning. It could have been seconds or centuries. Then, as suddenly as it began, the chaos ended. Naruto crashed face first onto cold, wet pavement. "Ow," he groaned, pushing himself up. Rain pelted his back as he took in his surroundings. Tall buildings stretched toward a night sky illuminated by lights unlike any he'd seen in Konoha. Strange metal contraptions lined the streets, and the air smelled of smoke, rain, and something chemical. "Definitely not home anymore," Naruto muttered, staggering to his feet. His body felt wrong, too. Light, too fast, humming with unfamiliar energy. When he tried to channel chakra to steady himself, yellow lightning crackled across his skin instead. Whoa! He jumped back, startled by his own body's reaction. The jump carried him 15 feet straight up, far more than he'd intended. What the hell? Before he could process what was happening, an explosion rocked the night several blocks away. Instinctively, Naruto turned toward the danger. Whatever had happened to him could wait, someone might need help. As he took a step forward, the world around him seemed to slow down. Raindrops hung suspended in the air. Distant car horns stretched into long, deep groans. And Naruto found himself blocks away from where he started in the blink of an eye, yellow lightning trailing behind him. "Okay, that's new," he said, skidding to a stop near the source of the explosion, a crater in what appeared to be a town square. Through the smoke and debris, he made out three figures. The first was a man in a strange outfit with clock-like designs, manipulating what looked like time itself, slowing down projectiles aimed at him while accelerating his own movements. Fighting him were two women. One flew through the air, actually flew, wearing armor that reminded Naruto of samurai designs but far more colorful, wielding a glowing rope and deflecting energy blasts with metallic bracelets. The other woman hovered nearby, wrapped in a dark cloak, her hands glowing with black energy as she chanted words Naruto couldn't understand. "Hey, is this a private fight or can anyone join?" Naruto called out, unable to help himself. All three combatants turned to look at him, surprise evident even through the smoke. The clock man recovered first. Another speedster. Flash must be getting desperate, sending children. He flicked his wrist, and a wave of energy rushed toward Naruto. Acting on instinct, Naruto dodged, and found himself moving faster than he'd ever moved before, a blur of orange and yellow lightning that circled around the attack completely. "I don't know what a speedster is," Naruto said, forming a familiar hand sign. "But I do know shadow clone jutsu." A dozen copies of Naruto popped into existence, each trailing the same lightning. The armored woman's eyes widened, while the cloaked woman tilted her head curiously. "Interesting," the cloaked woman murmured, her voice raspy yet somehow melodic. "That's not speed force manipulation. That's something else." The clock man snarled. "It doesn't matter what tricks he has. You're all out of time." He raised his hands, and the area around him distorted. Everyone but him began moving in slow motion, except Naruto still felt normal. "Time manipulation, huh?" Naruto grinned. "Remind me to introduce you to my friend Shikamaru someday." Naruto's clones rushed forward, moving faster than even the time manipulator seemed prepared for. The clock man blasted two of them out of existence, but three more got through his defenses, landing solid hits that sent him stumbling backward. "How are you?" the man started, but Naruto was already forming a Rasengan in his hand. Except this time, as his chakra swirled, yellow lightning crackled around the sphere, expanding it to twice its normal size. "Whatever's happening to me, I kinda like it," Naruto said, charging forward. Rasengan. The clock man raised a shield of temporal energy, but the lightning-enhanced Rasengan tore through it like paper. It struck him square in the chest, sending him flying backward into a building. The impact created a small crater in the wall, and the man slumped to the ground, unconscious. Naruto turned to face the two women, suddenly realizing he'd jumped into a situation without understanding any of the context. "So, I'm guessing he was the bad guy." The flying woman landed gracefully, her posture still combat-ready. She was taller than Naruto by several inches, with features that reminded him of nobility, strong yet beautiful. Her armor gleamed even in the dim light, and the sword at her hip looked like it could cut through steel. "Who are you?" she demanded, her accent unlike any Naruto had heard before. "And how did you resist Kronos' time distortion?" Naruto scratched the back of his head. "Name's Naruto Uzumaki, from Konoha. As for the time thing, no idea. Everything just went slow, and I didn't." The cloaked woman floated closer, and Naruto could now see her face beneath her hood, pale skin, purple eyes, and a red gem in the center of her forehead. "He's telling the truth," she said. "At least, what he believes is true. But his energy, it's unlike anything I've sensed before. Not fully speed force, but not fully, whatever else it is." "Speed force?" Naruto asked. Is that what's making me all? He vibrated his hand rapidly, yellow lightning dancing across his fingers. The armored woman frowned. You don't know what the speed force is, yet you have its power. Look, lady, 5 minutes ago I was investigating an energy disturbance near my village. Then I got sucked into some kind of rift thing, and now I'm here, wherever, here is, moving super fast and shooting lightning. Naruto crossed his arms. So how about you tell me who you are and what's going on? The women exchanged glances. The cloaked one gave a slight nod. I am Diana of Themyscira, also called Wonder Woman, the armored woman said, her posture relaxing slightly. This is Raven of Azarath. We are members of the Justice League, protecting this world from threats like Kronos. Justice League? Like, a village council? Naruto asked. Raven's lips quirked in what might have been amusement. More like an alliance of heroes with special abilities. Like your village might have shinobi, we have metahumans, aliens, and mystically empowered individuals. Naruto blinked. You know about shinobi? I know of many dimensions and their variations, Raven replied. Though yours, feels different. The energy you carry isn't typical of most shinobi worlds I've encountered. Diana had moved to secure Kronos, binding him with her glowing rope. The man you helped us defeat is a time manipulator who's been causing disturbances across Gotham City. We believe he's working for someone else, opening rifts similar to the one that brought you here. So this is Gotham, not Konoha. Different world entirely? Naruto asked, looking around at the unfamiliar cityscape. Different universe, most likely, Raven said. The multiverse contains countless variations of reality. Naruto was about to respond when a strange tingling sensation spread through his body. The world around him faded, replaced by visions, lightning crackling across a vast emptiness, connecting points of light like stars. He saw rifts forming between worlds, creatures moving through them, and at the center of it all, a dark presence consuming everything it touched. As quickly as it came, the vision vanished. Naruto found himself on one knee, breathing hard. What did you see? Raven asked immediately, kneeling beside him. How did you know I saw something? Naruto gasped. Your energy spiked. Speedsters sometimes get visions through their connection to the speed force, she explained. Naruto described what he'd seen. Diana and Raven exchanged concerned looks. The rifts are getting worse, Diana said. If what he saw is accurate, a thunderous boom interrupted her as the ground beneath them shook. Several blocks away, the sky tore open in a familiar swirling pattern. Lightning struck the ground, and through the new rift, dark shapes emerged. More company, Raven said dryly. Naruto squinted, then his blood ran cold. Those are shinobi, from my world. But something's wrong with them. The figures moving toward them wore familiar ninja gear, but they moved with unnatural speed, trailing the same yellow lightning that now surrounded Naruto. Their chakra signatures felt corrupted, twisted by the same energy now coursing through him. Speed force enhanced shinobi, Diana said grimly, drawing her sword. This just got more complicated. Naruto created more shadow clones, the action now accompanied by cascading lightning. Let me handle this. They're from my world, I might be able to reason with them. Before Diana could object, Naruto shot forward, moving faster than he ever had before. The world blurred around him as he closed the distance to the approaching ninja in seconds. Hey! Where did you come from? What's happening? Naruto called out, skidding to a stop in front of them. There were 5 of them, all wearing standard Jonin gear but with no village insignia. Their eyes glowed with yellow energy, and lightning crackled around them continuously. One stepped forward, his face partially obscured by a mask. The vessel returns, he said, his voice distorted. Lord Entropy will be pleased. Lord who now? Naruto asked, but the ninja attacked without warning, moving in a blur of speed and lightning. Naruto barely managed to dodge, his new reflexes saving him from what would have been a devastating blow. Two more ninja flanked him, throwing kunai that moved fast enough to break the sound barrier. Okay, so talking isn't an option, Naruto muttered, weaving between the projectiles. He formed a familiar cross-shaped hand seal. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. 50 Naruto clones appeared, each crackling with the same speed force energy. They engaged the corrupted shinobi while the real Naruto assessed the situation. These ninja weren't just fast, they were using techniques Naruto recognized, but enhanced by the speed force. One performed a fire jutsu that created a tornado of flames moving at incredible speed. Another used water techniques that hardened into ice instantly due to the extreme velocity. Two can play at that game, Naruto said, gathering his chakra. He felt the difference immediately, his chakra and this new energy were mixing, creating something entirely new. Wind style, Raisin Shuriken. The familiar spinning disc formed in his hand, but now it was surrounded by crackling yellow lightning. When he threw it, the Raisin Shuriken moved so fast it seemed to teleport, striking one of the corrupted ninja before he could react. The explosion that followed was twice as powerful as normal, sending lightning and wind chakra in all directions. Diana and Raven arrived just as Naruto engaged the remaining ninja. With his clones providing support, they quickly gained the upper hand. Diana's combat skills were unlike anything Naruto had seen, a perfect blend of raw power and technical mastery. Raven's abilities were even more unusual, manipulating shadows and energy in ways that reminded him of the Nara clan's techniques but with far greater versatility. In minutes, the corrupted shinobi were subdued, though one managed to escape through another small rift that closed immediately after. They called me a vessel, Naruto said as Diana bound the unconscious ninja. And mentioned someone named Lord Entropy. Raven's expression darkened. Entropy is a cosmic force of disorder and decay. If someone is harnessing that power and creating these rifts, they're the one behind what's happening to both our worlds, Diana finished. We need to take these ninja and Chronos back to the watchtower for questioning. And you, she looked at Naruto, should come with us. We have someone who knows more about the speed force than anyone. The watchtower? Naruto asked. Diana pointed upward. Our base. In orbit around this planet. Naruto's jaw dropped. You have a base in space? That's awesome. Raven's lips quirked again. I can teleport us there, she said, her cloak expanding to envelop them all. Brace yourself. Dimensional travel can be disorienting. Tell me about it, Naruto muttered as darkness surrounded them. The sensation of Raven's teleportation was thankfully nothing like the rift that had brought him to this world. Seconds later, they materialized in a large, high-tech room that made even Konoha's most advanced facilities look primitive. Welcome to the Justice League Watchtower, Diana said as Naruto gaped at the massive windows showing the curve of the planet below and the vast expanse of stars. I'm in space, Naruto whispered, pressing his hands against the glass. Actually in space. Your friend seems easily impressed, a new voice said. Naruto turned to see a man in a red suit with a lightning bolt emblem on his chest. Flash, Diana acknowledged. We need your expertise. This is Naruto Uzumaki. He came through a dimensional rift and has somehow merged his own energy, what he calls chakra, with the speed force. The Flash approached, studying Naruto with interest. So that's why your energy signature feels different. When did this happen? About an hour ago, I think. Naruto shrugged. Time got kind of weird during the whole dimension hopping thing. And you've already mastered super speed enough to fight Chronos and Speed Force enhanced ninja? Flash looked impressed. It took me months to stop running into walls. Naruto grinned. I'm a fast learner. Plus, I'm used to channeling chakra, it's just this lightning stuff that's new. Flash held up a hand, vibrating it so fast it blurred. The speed force isn't just about running fast. It's an entire dimension of energy that allows us to manipulate time, space, and even physics itself. Like a Kekkei Genkai? Naruto asked. I don't know what that is, but if it's a specialized power, then yes, something like that, Flash replied. While Flash gave Naruto a crash course in speedster abilities, Diana and Raven brought the captured ninja to the Watchtower's medical bay. Scans revealed that their chakra networks had been forcibly infused with speed force energy, causing the corruption Naruto had sensed. Their minds have been altered too, Raven reported when they rejoined Naruto and Flash. Something is controlling them through the speed force connection. Lord Entropy, I'm guessing, Naruto said. We need to know more, Diana decided. Flash, can you analyze how the speed force is interacting with his chakra? Raven, see if you can trace the dimensional signature of the rifts. If more are forming, we need to know where and when. As the others moved to their tasks, Naruto found himself in a specialized lab where Flash and another hero called Cyborg began running tests on his unique energy signature. This is fascinating, Cyborg said, monitoring readings on a holographic display. His chakra network is acting as a conduit for the speed force, but it's also modulating it, combining the two energies instead of just channeling one through the other. In English? Naruto asked, standing still as scanners moved around him. Flash grinned. You're not just a speedster with ninja powers or a ninja with speed. You're becoming something entirely new, a speed force sage, for lack of a better term. Speed force sage, Naruto repeated, liking the sound of it. So what can I do that regular speedsters can't? Based on these readings, potentially a lot, Cyborg replied. Your chakra stabilizes the speed force, potentially allowing you to use abilities that would tear other speedsters apart. And when you add speed force to your existing techniques, they get way stronger, Naruto finished, remembering how his Raisin Shuriken had practically teleported across the battlefield. Further tests revealed that Naruto's connection to Kurama was acting as a buffer, preventing the speed force from overwhelming his system. The Nine-Tails' chakra was actually adapting to the new energy, integrating it at a cellular level. I don't like it, Kurama grumbled within Naruto. This energy is wild, unpredictable. It's everywhere and everywhen at once. But you're handling it, right? Naruto asked internally. For now. But we need to master it properly or it could tear you apart during a crucial moment. After hours of tests, Naruto joined Diana, Raven, Flash, and several other Justice League members in what they called the conference room. The view of Earth from the large windows still distracted him, but he forced himself to focus as they discussed their findings. The dimensional rifts are appearing in specific patterns, Batman explained, a stern-looking man in a dark costume that reminded Naruto of ANBU gear. They're not random, they're following ley lines of mystic energy. And they're getting larger, a green-skinned man called Martian Manhunter added. The barriers between dimensions are weakening. We've identified at least 3 more incursions, Diana said, highlighting points on a global map. Each bringing something or someone from what we believe is Naruto's world into ours. The corrupted ninja we captured have been stabilized, Flash reported. But their connection to the speed force remains. Someone deliberately infused them with this energy, perhaps as a test run. For what? Naruto asked, though he had a sinking feeling he already knew. Raven answered, her voice grave. For you. The vessel, they mentioned. Your unique physiology, particularly your connection to the entity you call Kurama, makes you an ideal conduit between dimensions. Lord Entropy is using the speed force to break down barriers between universes, Batman concluded. And based on what we've learned, he likely wants to use you as a focal point to accelerate the process. Great, another villain who wants to use me as a weapon, Naruto muttered. So how do we stop him? First, you need better control of your new abilities, Flash said. I can help with that. And I can help you understand the mystical implications, Raven offered. Your chakra has similarities to some forms of magical energy I've worked with. Diana stood. We've detected another rift forming, a large one, near the ancient ruins outside Gotham. If Kronos was opening these rifts for his master, then whoever's continuing his work will likely be there. Then what are we waiting for? Naruto asked, standing. The faster I learn to control these powers, the sooner we can stop this entropy guy and get me home. Flash placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. Speed isn't always the answer, kid. Sometimes even speedsters need to slow down and prepare properly. Naruto grinned. Where I come from, we prepare on the move. So let's move. As the heroes dispersed to prepare for the mission, Raven approached Naruto privately. There's something else you should know, she said quietly. When I touched your mind earlier, I sensed your connection to your world, to your friends, your village. That connection is still strong, which means there's hope of returning you home once this is over. Thanks, Naruto said sincerely. I was wondering about that. But, Raven continued, the Speed Force has already changed you on a fundamental level. Even if you return to your world, you won't be exactly the same person who left. Naruto considered this. Change isn't always bad. Back home, I've always been the unpredictable ninja. Might as well keep that reputation going, right? Raven's expression remained serious. Just be careful. Power like this comes with consequences, believe me, I know. Before Naruto could ask what she meant, alarms blared throughout the watchtower. Batman's voice came over the communication system, the rift is expanding rapidly. All available League members, prepare for emergency response. Through the windows, Naruto could see a swirling distortion forming in Earth's atmosphere, visible even from space, a massive tear in reality that pulsed with malevolent energy. That doesn't look good, he said. It's not, Flash replied, appearing beside him in a blur of speed. That's big enough to allow something truly catastrophic through. Diana joined them, already in full armor. We need to move now. Raven can teleport us directly to the site. As Raven prepared her transportation spell, Naruto felt the Speed Force energy within him resonating with the distant rift. Whatever was coming through, it was connected to him somehow, and that connection terrified him more than anything else about this strange new world. The darkness of Raven's teleportation enveloped them once more, and Naruto steeled himself for whatever awaited on the other side. One thing was certain, his life as a shinobi hadn't prepared him for interdimensional crises, but it had taught him never to back down when others were in danger. As they materialized near the expanding rift, Naruto's breath caught in his throat. Standing before the swirling portal was a familiar figure, one that shouldn't be in any world, let alone this one. Impossible, he whispered as lightning crackled around his clenched fists. That's, you know him? Diana asked, sensing Naruto's shock. Naruto nodded grimly. Orochimaru. One of the most dangerous shinobi from my world. And if he's here? The pale-skinned Sannin turned slowly, a smile spreading across his face as he spotted Naruto. Ah, Naruto-kun. How convenient. I was just about to send someone to fetch you. Yellow lightning flickered around Orochimaru's form, mixing with his purple chakra in an unnatural display of power. This is very bad, Naruto said, dropping into a fighting stance as both his chakra and the Speed Force surged within him. Very, very bad. Orochimaru's laugh echoed across the ruins, cold and calculating as ever, but now with an otherworldly resonance that sent chills down Naruto's spine. You've changed, Naruto-kun, the Sannin observed, his snake-like eyes taking in the lightning crackling around Naruto's form. Lord Entropy said you would adapt quickly to the Speed Force. Such a fascinating subject you've always been. You know about the Speed Force? About this world? Naruto demanded. How long have you been here? Orochimaru's smile widened. Time flows differently between dimensions. I've had, let's call it an enlightening partnership with Lord Entropy for quite some time now. Your arrival was the final piece we needed. Diana stepped forward, sword drawn. Whatever you're planning ends here, Snake. Ah, the Amazon princess, Orochimaru said with mock reverence. And the demon's daughter, he added, eyeing Raven. Lord Entropy has told me all about this world's champions. Enough talk, Flash said, his body vibrating with barely contained energy. Shut down that rift now. Orochimaru made a dismissive gesture. I'm afraid that's not possible. The dimensional collision has already begun. Soon, our worlds will merge completely, creating the chaos Lord Entropy requires to ascend to his true form. As he spoke, the rift behind him pulsed, expanding further. Through it, Naruto could see distorted images of what looked like Konoha, but wrong somehow, twisted and overlapping with Gotham's cityscape. We need to close that portal, Batman said over their comms. The energy readings are off the charts. Orochimaru's hands blurred through familiar signs, but with speed force enhancement, they moved almost too fast to see. Let me show you what happens when the forbidden techniques of the shinobi world meet. The physics of yours. The ground beneath them erupted as massive snakes burst forth, each one crackling with the same yellow lightning that surrounded Orochimaru. They moved with impossible speed, striking at the heroes from multiple angles simultaneously. I've got the snakes. Flash called out, becoming a red blur that intercepted the creatures. Diana launched herself at Orochimaru, her sword slicing through the air with deadly precision. The Sannin dodged with enhanced speed, his body bending in unnatural ways that reminded Naruto of his snake-like abilities. Naruto, the rift. Raven shouted, already casting spells to contain the expanding tear. Nodding, Naruto dashed toward the portal, leaving trails of lightning behind him. As he approached, he felt the conflicting energies pulling at him, chakra from his world, speed force from this one, both swirling around the dimensional breach. Kurama, any ideas? Naruto asked internally. This isn't just about power, the Ninetales replied. It's about resonance. The rift is tuned to your specific energy signature, both your chakra and the speed force within you. So I can close it? Or make it worse? Be careful, Kit. Naruto reached the edge of the rift, feeling its pull growing stronger. Behind him, the battle raged, Diana and Orochimaru exchanging blows that shattered stone, Flash dismantling the lightning-enhanced snakes, and Raven casting barriers to prevent further expansion of the tear. Focusing his chakra, Naruto attempted to sense the pattern of the rift's energy. It was like a corrupted version of his own signature, chakra and speed force twisted together but out of harmony. I need to rebalance it, he realized. Forming a Rasengan, he allowed both energies to flow into it equally, seeking the perfect balance that would counteract the rift's chaotic pattern. The sphere in his hand grew, changing from blue to a swirling mix of blue and gold as chakra and speed force integrated. Lightning arced around it, but controlled now, moving in sync with the spiral patterns of the Rasengan. Whatever you're doing, do it fast. Flash called out, momentarily appearing beside him before dashing away to intercept another attack. Naruto thrust the balanced Rasengan into the center of the rift. For a moment, nothing happened, then the tear began to shrink, the edges pulling inward as his harmonized energies counteracted the chaotic forces sustaining it. Orochimaru noticed immediately. No, he hissed, disengaging from Diana and moving toward Naruto with blinding speed. But Raven was faster, teleporting directly into his path. You're not interfering, she said, eyes glowing white as dark energy erupted from her hands, encasing Orochimaru in shadowy bonds. The Sannin struggled, his speed force-enhanced strength straining against Raven's magic. You don't understand what you're preventing, he snarled. The merger of our worlds would create possibilities beyond imagination. The power would destroy both universes, Raven finished. I've seen what happens when dimensions collide. It's not creation, it's annihilation. Naruto maintained his focus on the rift, pouring more energy into his technique. The portal continued to shrink, but he could feel resistance, something on the other side was fighting to keep it open. Naruto! Diana called out, joining him at the rift. It's not closing fast enough. More are coming through. She was right. Through the shrinking portal, shadowy figures were emerging, more corrupted shinobi, their bodies distorted by the dimensional transition and the unnatural speed force infusion. I need more power, Naruto said through gritted teeth. Kurama, I need to borrow more of your chakra. Be careful, the fox warned. Too much of my chakra mixed with the speed force could be volatile. No choice, Naruto replied, drawing deeply on the Ninetales' power. His appearance changed instantly, orange chakra enveloping him, his whisker marks deepening, his eyes turning red with slitted pupils. When this chakra mode mixed with the speed force, the yellow lightning turned a brilliant orange gold, crackling with unprecedented intensity. The power surge sent a shockwave through the area, knocking everyone back except Raven, who maintained her hold on Orochimaru by anchoring herself with her soul self. What is he? Diana asked, watching in awe as Naruto's transformation intensified. Something new, Flash replied, equally amazed. He's channeling more speed force than I've ever seen anyone handle without being torn apart. The rift began closing rapidly now, the edges collapsing inward as Naruto's harmonized energies overwhelmed the chaotic forces sustaining it. The corrupted shinobi who had made it through found themselves facing Diana and Flash while Raven continued restraining Orochimaru. With a final surge of effort, Naruto pushed his combined powers to their limit. The rift collapsed with a thunderous boom, releasing a pulse of energy that rippled outward in a golden wave. As it passed over the corrupted shinobi, their unnatural speed force energy dissipated, leaving them disoriented but freed from its influence. Naruto staggered backward, his transformation receding as the strain caught up with him. Flash caught him before he could fall. Easy there, the Scarlet Speedster said. That was impressive, but you need to pace yourself. The speed force can be demanding. Tell me about it, Naruto gasped, feeling like he'd run around the world a dozen times. Did we stop it? This rift, yes, Diana confirmed, joining them after subduing the remaining shinobi. But there will be others. Orochimaru was just a pawn in Lord Entropy's game. Speaking of Orochimaru, Naruto looked around for the Sannin, only to find Raven's energy bonds empty. He escaped, Raven said, frustration evident in her voice. Used some kind of substitution technique combined with speed force vibration to phase through my containment. That's really not good, Naruto said, finally catching his breath. Orochimaru was dangerous before. With speed force abilities and knowledge of this world. He'll be back, Batman's voice came over their comms. But we'll be ready. For now, return to the watchtower. We need to analyze what happened and prepare for the next incursion. As Raven prepared another teleportation spell, Naruto looked at where the rift had been. Though closed, he could still feel a lingering connection, a thin thread linking this world to his own. I'll find a way home, he promised himself. But first, I need to make sure there's still a home to go back to. The darkness of Raven's magic enveloped them once more, taking them back to the watchtower to plan their next move against a threat that spanned dimensions. Chapter 2, Worlds in Collision. Naruto stared at his reflection in the watchtower's observation window, the blue-green curve of Earth hanging suspended in the blackness of space behind him. Yellow lightning occasionally flickered across his eyes when he concentrated, a constant reminder of how much had changed in just 24 hours. Still wrapping your head around it? Flash asked, appearing beside him in a blur of red. Yeah, Naruto admitted. Back home, I've dealt with some pretty wild stuff, giant monsters, reincarnated zombie ninja, even a goddess trying to mind control everyone. But different dimensions. Speed powers. Space stations. He gestured at the view. This is next level weird, even for me. Flash chuckled. Trust me, in this line of work, next level weird is Tuesday. You'll adjust. If I live long enough, Naruto muttered. About that, Flash said, his tone turning serious. The tests Cyborg ran show your speed force connection is still unstable. You're generating more energy than your body can safely channel. Naruto frowned. Kurama says the same thing. He's been absorbing the excess, but even he has limits. And I'm approaching them, the Nine Tails growled within him. This speed force energy doesn't rest, it's constantly accelerating through your system. Then it's time you learn to control it properly, Flash said, gesturing for Naruto to follow him. The speed lab is this way. The training facility was massive, easily the size of Konoha's largest practice grounds, but enclosed and filled with advanced technology Naruto couldn't begin to understand. Treadmills that seemed designed to handle supersonic speeds, obstacle courses that reconfigured themselves, and monitoring stations surrounding the perimeter. First lesson, Flash said, stepping onto one of the treadmills. Running properly. Sounds basic, I know, but with the speed force, how you run affects everything, your control, your efficiency, even your connection to the speed force itself. Naruto raised an eyebrow. I've been running since I was like 4, you know. Not like this you haven't, Flash replied with a knowing smile. Watch. He began running, slowly at first, then accelerating until his form became a red blur. Yellow lightning crackled around him in a perfect, controlled pattern. See how the energy flows? Flash called out, his voice somehow clear despite his speed. It's not just about going fast, it's about harmony with the speed force. Naruto stepped onto another treadmill, channeling energy the way he'd instinctively done during the fight. Lightning erupted chaotically around him as he accelerated, his form becoming an orange-yellow blur. Whoa, he yelped as the energy surged unpredictably, nearly throwing him off the machine. You're fighting it, Flash observed, still running smoothly on his treadmill. The speed force isn't like chakra, you don't command it, you collaborate with it. Think of it as a partner, not a tool. Naruto tried again, focusing less on pushing the energy and more on feeling its natural flow. It was completely opposite to how he usually handled chakra, which required precise direction and control. That's better, Flash encouraged as Naruto's lightning pattern began to stabilize. Now, try to find the resonant frequency, the point where your energy and the speed force sync perfectly. For the next hour, Naruto practiced basic speed force manipulation under Flash's guidance. It was harder than he expected, more like learning to swim than learning to run. The energy wanted to move in certain ways, and fighting against those patterns only created resistance. It's like Sage Mode, but backwards, Naruto realized aloud as he finally found the rhythm that let him run without chaos erupting around him. Instead of pulling natural energy in and controlling it, I'm letting this energy flow through me naturally. Exactly. Flash said, pleased. Now let's try something more advanced. Vibration frequency control. This proved even more challenging. Flash demonstrated how to vibrate his molecules at different frequencies, to phase through solid objects, to disrupt certain energies, or to match the resonance of specific dimensional barriers. Naruto's first attempt sent him crashing into a wall rather than through it. Ow, he groaned, peeling himself off the dented metal. This is harder than it looks. You're still thinking like a solid object, Flash explained, helping him up. You need to think like energy, like you're part of the speed force itself. Raven entered the training area as Naruto picked himself up for the 5th time. Her cloak was drawn close around her, but her hood was down, revealing more of her face than Naruto had seen previously. How's the training going? She asked, a hint of amusement in her usually monotone voice. Great, if the goal is to discover new ways to crash into stuff, Naruto said ruefully, rubbing his shoulder. He's actually progressing faster than expected, Flash countered. His adaptive ability is off the charts. But the dual energy system is making things unpredictable. Raven approached Naruto, her eyes studying him with an intensity that made him slightly uncomfortable. May I? She asked, raising her hands near his temples. Naruto nodded, and Raven placed her fingertips gently on either side of his head. Her eyes closed in concentration as dark energy briefly flickered around her hands. Fascinating, she murmured. Your chakra network is acting as both a conductor and a buffer for the speed force. The two energies aren't just coexisting, they're beginning to harmonize. Is that good or bad? Naruto asked. Potentially revolutionary, Raven replied, lowering her hands. But dangerous if you can't maintain balance. I might be able to help with that part. My empathic abilities allow me to sense energy patterns and help stabilize them. Flash nodded enthusiastically. Perfect. I can teach him the mechanics, you can help with the energetic balance. So I get 2 teachers for the price of 1. Naruto grinned. Cool. Cyborg's voice came over the intercom before they could continue. Everyone to the command center. We've got a situation. The command center buzzed with activity as they arrived. Diana and Batman stood before a large holographic display showing a map of Earth with several pulsing red dots marking locations. New rifts are forming, Diana explained as they joined her. Smaller than the one we closed, but more numerous. The dimensional barriers are weakening, Batman added, his expression grim even by his standards. Our calculations suggest we have less than 72 hours before catastrophic collapse begins. That means Lord Entropy's plan is accelerating, Raven said. Even without the main rift, he's found ways to continue the process. Batman highlighted one of the red dots on the display. This incursion is particularly concerning. It's appeared on Themyscira. My home, Diana said, her jaw tightening. No outsiders should be able to access the island without Amazonian permission. The magical barriers have stood for millennia. Apparently interdimensional rifts don't care about magical barriers, Flash commented. Batman continued, satellite imagery shows unusual activity near the Temple of Athena. Someone or something came through and is conducting experiments in the ancient ruins. Orochimaru, Naruto said immediately. Temples, ruins, forbidden knowledge, that's totally his style. And if he's on Themyscira? He's after the divine artifacts, Diana finished, her expression darkening. The Amazons safeguard relics of immense power, some dating back to the creation of the universe itself. That can't be good, Naruto said. Especially with his new Speed Force abilities. We need to move immediately, Diana declared. I'll assemble a team. I'm going, Naruto said firmly. Orochimaru is from my world. I know how he thinks, how he fights. Diana nodded. Agreed. Flash, we'll need your Speed Force expertise. Raven, your mystical knowledge will be essential if he's tampering with ancient artifacts. What about the other rifts? Flash asked, gesturing to the numerous red dots scattered across the global map. Other League members are responding to those, Batman replied. But this one takes priority given the potential power Orochimaru could access on Themyscira. As the others prepared for the mission, Naruto stepped away to center himself, closing his eyes and entering his mindscape to consult with Kurama. The vast chamber where the Ninetales resided looked different now, streaks of yellow lightning raced along the walls and across the ceiling, intertwining with the fox's orange chakra. The Speed Force is changing even this place, Naruto observed. Everything is changing, Kurama rumbled, his massive form stretching out before Naruto. Your body, your chakra, even the barriers between dimensions. I can sense the instability growing. Any ideas on how to stop it? This Lord Entropy isn't just manipulating the Speed Force, he's corrupting it, using it against its natural purpose. The Speed Force connects dimensions, it doesn't destroy them. So if we restore balance to the Speed Force, we might restore balance to the dimensions. But that would require understanding what Lord Entropy is doing to corrupt it in the first place. Naruto nodded. Then we need to catch Orochimaru. He seems to know a lot more about what's going on than we do. Be careful, Naruto, Kurama warned. Orochimaru was dangerous enough before. With Speed Force abilities and whatever knowledge this Lord Entropy has given him. Yeah, I know. But we don't have a choice. Naruto opened his eyes to find Raven watching him curiously. Were you communicating with the entity inside you? she asked. Kurama, Naruto confirmed. He's not just some entity, he's my partner. Raven's expression softened slightly. I understand. I too share my existence with another consciousness, though mine is less cooperative than yours seems to be. Before Naruto could ask what she meant, Diana approached, now in full battle armor with her sword strapped to her hip and her shield on her back. We're ready, she announced. Raven will teleport us directly to Themyscira. Naruto had experienced Raven's teleportation before, but this time felt different. The darkness that enveloped them seemed to resist, pushing back against their passage as if something was interfering with her magic. Something's wrong, Raven said, her voice strained as she fought to maintain the spell. The dimensional barriers are thinner than before. We're being pulled off course. Naruto felt it too, a tugging sensation as if multiple forces were trying to redirect them. He instinctively channeled the speed force, creating a stabilizing field of energy around the group. Focus on my energy, he told Raven. Use it as an anchor. Raven nodded, her eyes glowing white as she redirected her spell to work with Naruto's speed force field. The turbulence subsided, and moments later, they materialized on a pristine beach with white sand and crystal-clear water. Rising behind them were lush green mountains and ancient marble structures. Themyscira, Diana breathed, a mix of joy and concern in her voice. We've arrived at the western shore. It's beautiful, Naruto said, taking in the scenery. The island radiated a peaceful energy unlike anything he'd felt before, ancient and powerful, yet nurturing. And it needs to stay that way, Diana replied firmly. The Temple of Athena is inland, through the sacred grove. As they moved away from the beach, Flash sipped ahead to scout, returning seconds later with a troubled expression. We've got company, he reported. Amazon patrols are engaged with intruders near the temple. I caught glimpses of figures moving with speed force energy. More corrupted shinobi, Naruto guessed. Most likely, Diana agreed. The Amazons are formidable warriors, but they won't be prepared for enemies with speed abilities. They quickened their pace, moving through a forest of ancient trees that seemed to watch them as they passed. Naruto noticed symbols carved into some of the trunks, protection wards, according to Raven. The entire island is layered with magical defenses, she explained. Some older than human civilization itself. Which makes it all the more concerning that Orochimaru found a way in, Diana added grimly. As they approached the temple area, the sounds of battle reached them, metal clashing against metal, commands shouted in a language Naruto didn't recognize, and the distinctive crackling of speed force lightning. They crested a hill to find a scene of chaos. A dozen Amazon warriors in ancient Greek armor formed a defensive perimeter around a magnificent temple of white marble. They fought against a mix of opponents, some were clearly shinobi with speed force enhancements, while others appeared to be strange hybrid creatures, part human and part something else. What are those things? Naruto asked, pointing to a creature with scaled skin and elongated limbs that moved with unnatural speed. Experiments, Diana spat. Orochimaru must be combining his forbidden techniques with the indigenous species of Themyscira. This is so his style, Naruto growled, lightning already beginning to crackle around his body. He never could resist improving on nature. Diana drew her sword. Flash, circle the perimeter and disrupt any speedsters targeting my sisters. Raven, secure the temple entrance, don't let anyone else inside. Naruto, with me, we're going to cut straight through to find Orochimaru. They sprung into action. Flash became a red streak racing around the battlefield, intercepting corrupted shinobi and drawing them away from the Amazon warriors. Raven took to the air, dark energy flowing from her hands as she created barriers across the temple entrances. Naruto and Diana charged directly into the fray. Diana moved with the grace and power of a true warrior goddess, her sword cutting through enemies as her bracelets deflected projectiles with perfect precision. Naruto kept pace beside her, his speed force-enhanced reflexes allowing him to duck, weave, and strike with incredible timing. Shadow Clone Jutsu, he called out, creating a dozen copies that sped off in different directions to engage multiple enemies simultaneously. An Amazon with a captain's plume on her helmet approached Diana, speaking rapidly in their native tongue. Diana responded, then turned to Naruto. Orochimaru is inside the inner sanctum with several others. They've breached the Vault of Ages where we keep our most dangerous artifacts. That sounds bad, Naruto said, dispatching a corrupted shinobi with a lightning-fast Rasengan. Catastrophically bad, Diana confirmed. Some of those artifacts predate the current universe. If he connects them to the Speed Force somehow. She didn't need to finish. Naruto nodded and they pressed forward toward the temple entrance where Raven held her position. Something's happening inside, Raven reported as they reached her. I can feel massive energy fluctuations, a mixture of speed force, chakra, and ancient magic. Can you teleport us directly to the inner sanctum? Diana asked. Raven shook her head. The magical barriers are too strong, even with the damage they've sustained. We'll have to go in physically. Then let's move, Naruto said, already vibrating with anticipation. They raced through the temple corridors, past fallen Amazon guards and signs of battle. The marble floors were scorched in places, and walls had been broken through with tremendous force. As they descended deeper into the temple, Naruto felt a pressure building in his chest, the speed force within him responding to something ahead. He's channeling speed force energy into something powerful, Flash said, catching up to them after dealing with the outside threats. I can feel it pulling on the speed force itself. They reached a massive doorway, its golden surface dented and partially melted. Beyond it lay the inner sanctum, a circular chamber with a domed ceiling depicting the night sky in precious stones. At the center stood Orochimaru, surrounded by a team of white-clad scientists and several elite shinobi. But what drew everyone's attention was the object floating above a pedestal before Orochimaru, a crystalline sphere about the size of a basketball, its surface swirling with galaxies and stars that seemed to move and shift as if truly alive. The cosmic egg, Diana whispered in horror. One of the fragments from the birth of the universe itself. Orochimaru turned as they entered, a satisfied smile on his pale face. Right on time, he said smoothly. I was hoping you'd join us for this momentous occasion, Naruto-kun. Step away from the artifact, Orochimaru, Naruto demanded, lightning crackling around his clenched fists. Or what? You'll stop me? Orochimaru chuckled. You don't even understand what's happening yet. Lord Entropy isn't destroying your world or this one, he's evolving them. Creating something greater from their collision. By corrupting the speed force and breaking down dimensional barriers. Flash challenged. That's not evolution, it's annihilation. Orochimaru shrugged elegantly. A matter of perspective. What is destruction but the precursor to creation? He gestured to the floating sphere. This remarkable artifact contains the pattern of universal formation, the very template for reality itself. Which you're corrupting, Diana accused, edging forward with her sword at the ready. Improving, Orochimaru corrected. By infusing it with the speed force and chakra simultaneously, we're creating a new template, one that will guide the rebirth of both our universes as a single, superior realm. As he spoke, Naruto noticed something disturbing. Tubes connected to Orochimaru's arms were feeding a mixture of blood and glowing energy into the base of the pedestal. That's not just any chakra, Naruto realized aloud. You're using DNA from both worlds, aren't you? Creating hybrid powers like you always wanted. Orochimaru's smile widened. Very perceptive. The Amazons have such fascinating genetic potential, divine heritage mixed with human adaptability. Combined with shinobi chakra networks and metahuman genes from this world. You're creating an army, Raven concluded, her eyes narrowing. An evolved humanity, Orochimaru corrected. Lord Entropy requires suitable vessels to inhabit the new universe. Only the strongest will survive the transition. That's enough talk, Diana declared, raising her sword. Flash, get the artifact. Raven, contain the energy. Naruto, I've got snake face, Naruto finished, already moving. Orochimaru's elite guards intercepted them, for shinobi with speed force enhancements, moving faster than normal ninja ever could. But they weren't just faster, they displayed other abilities as well. One generated black lightning that cut through marble like butter. Another phased through solid objects while attacking, making him nearly impossible to counter. Diana engaged 2 guards simultaneously, her combat skills more than making up for their speed advantage. Flash raced toward the artifact but found himself blocked by a complex speed force disruption field around the pedestal. I can't reach it, he called out. They've created some kind of speed force barrier. Raven focused her powers on containing the growing energy fluctuations as the cosmic egg began to pulse more rapidly, each surge sending out waves of reality-distorting force that made the temple itself seem to flicker in and out of existence. Naruto went straight for Orochimaru, channeling both chakra and speed force into a spinning Rasengan. This ends now. Orochimaru's neck elongated unnaturally, one of his signature techniques, allowing him to dodge while his hands continued manipulating the controls on the pedestal. You always were impatient, Naruto-kun. This process cannot be stopped once initiated. The dimensional merger has begun at the quantum level. As if to confirm his words, the air around them rippled. For a moment, Naruto saw 2 overlapping realities, the Amazon temple and what looked like an underground laboratory from his own world, possibly one of Orochimaru's hidden facilities. What have you done? Naruto demanded, pressing his attack with a barrage of high-speed strikes. Orochimaru matched his speed, blocking and countering with fluid grace. The Sannin had always been unnaturally fast, but with speed force enhancement, his movements became almost impossible to track. I've ensured my place in the new order, Orochimaru replied, his tongue extending to impossible length and lashing out like a whip. Lord Entropy rewards those who serve his vision. In the coming world, I will continue my research without the petty limitations imposed by either of our realities. Naruto created a dozen speed clones, surrounding Orochimaru from all angles. There won't be a coming world if both universes collapse. A calculated risk, Orochimaru admitted, dispatching the clones with surprising efficiency. But Lord Entropy has existed since before either of our universes. He understands the cosmic cycle far better than you or I. As they fought, the energy emanating from the cosmic egg intensified. The sphere began to crack, golden light spilling from the fissures forming across its surface. It's destabilizing. Raven warned, her containment barriers straining against the surging power. If it shatters completely, it could create a singularity. That's the point, one of Orochimaru's scientists called out gleefully. A controlled Big Bang to initiate universal reformation. Diana, having dispatched the guards attacking her, charged toward the pedestal. Flash. We need to synchronize. When I strike the control panel, you need to create a speed force vacuum around the artifact. Flash nodded, positioning himself opposite Diana. On your mark. Now. Diana brought her sword down on the control mechanism with all her strength, cleaving through the advanced technology. Simultaneously, Flash began running in a tight circle around the pedestal, creating a speed force vortex that contained the energy surging from the cracking artifact. Naruto saw his opportunity. With Orochimaru momentarily distracted by the intervention, he gathered both chakra and speed force into perfect balance, something he'd been practicing during training. The result was a new variation of his signature technique, a speed Rasengan that existed partially in normal space and partially in the speed force itself. Here's something new I've been working on. Naruto declared, driving the technique into Orochimaru's chest. The Sannin's eyes widened in genuine surprise as the attack connected. Unlike a normal Rasengan that ground into its target, this one phased partly through him, disrupting the speed force energy within his body while simultaneously attacking his physical form. Orochimaru was thrown backward, crashing into the wall with enough force to crack the ancient marble. For a moment, his body seemed to flicker between solid and energy states, the speed-force connection destabilized by Naruto's attack. Impressive, Orochimaru gasped, blood trickling from his mouth as he struggled to his feet. You've mastered the integration faster than even Lord Entropy predicted. Before Naruto could press his advantage, the cosmic egg shattered completely despite Flash's containment efforts. Instead of an explosion, however, the energy collapsed inward, forming a swirling vortex that began pulling everything toward it. It's creating a dimensional rift. Raven shouted over the roaring energy. A direct connection between our worlds. Through the vortex, Naruto caught glimpses of familiar landscapes, parts of Konoha, the Forest of Death, and what looked like one of the hidden sound villages Orochimaru had established. Orochimaru, recovering quickly despite his injuries, smiled triumphantly. The process cannot be stopped now. Our worlds are already merging at key points, nexus locations where reality is most malleable. The temple began to shake violently as the dimensional forces strained its ancient structure. Columns cracked, and sections of the ceiling came crashing down. We need to seal that rift. Flash called out, still running to contain the worst of the energy discharge. I can try to close it, Raven offered, her eyes glowing white as her soul self began to manifest, a massive, shadowy raven form surrounding her physical body. You'll need an anchor on both sides, Orochimaru commented casually, backing toward the vortex. Something, or someone, connected to both dimensions. Naruto's eyes widened as he realized what the Sannin meant. He's going to escape through the rift. Diana launched her lasso, the golden rope streaking toward Orochimaru with unerring accuracy. But at the last second, he vibrated his molecules, a speed-force technique Flash had only just begun teaching Naruto, and the lasso passed harmlessly through him. Until we meet again, Orochimaru said with a mocking bow, stepping backward into the vortex. Perhaps in Konoha next time. Lord Entropy sends his regards. Before anyone could stop him, Orochimaru vanished into the swirling energy. The moment he disappeared, the vortex began to contract violently. It's collapsing. Raven warned. The dimensional energies are becoming unstable. Naruto didn't think, he acted. Channeling both speed force and chakra in equal measure, he created a stabilizing field around the vortex, similar to what he'd done during Raven's teleportation but on a much larger scale. What are you doing? Flash asked, alarmed. Buying us time, Naruto replied through gritted teeth, the strain evident in his voice. Raven, can you close it if I hold it stable? Raven nodded, her soul self expanding to encompass the rift. I need about 30 seconds. You've got it, Naruto promised, pouring more energy into the containment field. Diana and Flash protected them from falling debris as the temple continued to crumble around them. Naruto's entire body vibrated with the effort of maintaining the stabilization field, lightning arcing from him in all directions. You're channeling too much power, Kurama warned within him. Your chakra network is overloading. No choice, Naruto responded internally. If this thing collapses uncontrolled, both our worlds are toast. He could feel his control slipping as the seconds stretched out, each one feeling like an hour. The dual energies within him fought each other, creating cascading resonance patterns that threatened to tear him apart from the inside. Just when Naruto thought he couldn't hold on any longer, Raven completed her spell. Her soul self contracted around the vortex, compressing it with mystic energy while chanting words in a language that seemed to hurt the air itself. The rift shrank rapidly, closing like an iris until it vanished with a thunderclap of displaced air. The moment it closed, Naruto collapsed, his body smoking from the energy overload. Flash was at his side instantly. He's going into speed force burnout, he warned, checking Naruto's vitals. His system can't handle the feedback. Raven knelt beside them, placing her hands on Naruto's chest. Dark energy flowed from her palms into his body, seeking out the chaotic energy patterns and gently soothing them. His two energy systems are fighting each other, she explained, her face strained with concentration. The chakra wants to flow in circular patterns while the speed force moves in linear bursts. The conflict is tearing him apart. Can you stabilize him? Diana asked, keeping watch as more Amazons arrived at the temple entrance. I'm trying, Raven replied. But I'm only treating the symptoms. He needs to find harmony between these energies himself. Within his mindscape, Naruto found himself before Kurama, but something was wrong. The great fox was struggling, his chakra flickering as streaks of yellow lightning attacked him from all sides. Kurama! Naruto called out, reaching for his partner. The speed force is rejecting me, Kurama growled, fighting against the lightning. It sees me as an intrusion in your system. No. Naruto pushed back against the attacking energy. You're part of me. You always have been. He placed himself between Kurama and the speed force lightning, absorbing the impacts himself. Each strike felt like being hit by Sasuke's Chidori, but Naruto stood his ground. Listen to me, he addressed the speed force directly, not knowing if it could hear him but trying anyway. Kurama isn't your enemy. We're partners. If you want to work with me, you work with him too. That's the deal. To his surprise, the lightning seemed to respond, pulling back slightly. Naruto pressed his advantage. That's right. We work together, all of us. Chakra and speed force in balance. Naruto reached within himself, finding the core of his chakra, the swirling energy he'd been using since childhood, and beside it, the crackling power of the speed force. Instead of keeping them separate or letting one dominate the other, he visualized them intertwining, complementing each other's movements. Where chakra flowed in spirals, the speed force could provide forward momentum. Where the speed force moved in straight lines, chakra could provide control and direction. Together, they created something entirely new, a harmonized energy that was greater than the sum of its parts. In the physical world, Raven gasped as she felt the change occurring within Naruto. He's doing it, she whispered in amazement. He's harmonizing the energies himself. Naruto's body began to glow with a distinctive aura, orange chakra intertwined with golden speed force lightning in perfectly synchronized patterns. His eyes opened, revealing irises that fluctuated between blue, red, and gold. That, he said hoarsely, was intense. Flash helped him sit up, studying the new energy pattern with professional interest. Incredible. You've created a stable integration state. I've never seen anything like it. Had some help, Naruto admitted, glancing at Raven. Thanks for keeping me from exploding or whatever. Raven nodded, a small smile briefly crossing her face. You did the hard part yourself. Diana approached with several Amazon warriors, including a regal woman wearing a golden crown who could only be the queen. Mother, Diana greeted her with respect. This is Naruto Uzumaki, from another dimension. Without his intervention, the temple and perhaps the island itself would have been destroyed. Queen Hippolyta studied Naruto with piercing eyes that seemed to see right through him. A male warrior with the speed of Hermes and the spirit of a lion, she observed. Unusual allies you bring to Themyscira these days, daughter. Unusual times call for unusual measures, Diana replied diplomatically. The queen nodded thoughtfully, then addressed Naruto directly. The Amazons thank you for your assistance, warrior from beyond. Few men have set foot on Themyscira, and fewer still have earned our gratitude. Naruto managed to stand, his new energy balance making him feel lighter and more coordinated than before. I'm just glad we stopped Orochimaru before he could complete whatever he was planning. We didn't stop it entirely, Flash reminded them grimly. The cosmic egg was destroyed, and some of its energy escaped through the rift with Orochimaru. And he mentioned other nexus points, Raven added. Places where our worlds are already beginning to merge. Diana turned to her mother. The Hall of Wisdom may hold answers. The ancient texts speak of previous dimensional convergences. Hippolyta nodded. I will grant you access. If Lord Entropy is indeed the threat behind these events, then all worlds stand in grave danger. The Hall of Wisdom proved to be a vast library beneath the royal palace, its shelves filled with scrolls and books that, according to Diana, contained knowledge dating back to the creation of the Amazons and beyond. As the others searched through the ancient texts, Naruto found himself drawn to a particular scroll sealed with a symbol that looked strikingly similar to the Uzumaki clan's spiral. "Hey," he called out, pointing to the seal. "This looks like my family crest." Diana examined the scroll with surprise. "That's the Seal of Worlds, a symbol that appears in many cultures across multiple dimensions. It represents the cosmic spiral of creation. The Uzumaki clan specialized in sealing techniques," Naruto explained. "Our symbol was a spiral because we believed life energy flowed in continuous cycles." Raven carefully broke the seal and unrolled the ancient parchment. The text was written in a language none of them recognized at first, but as they studied it, the characters seemed to shift and change, adapting to become readable to each observer. "It's responding to our combined energies," Raven realized. "This scroll contains multidimensional knowledge, it presents itself differently depending on who reads it." The text revealed a prophecy dating back to before recorded history, speaking of an entity called the Devourer between worlds, who fed on the chaos of colliding universes. It described how this entity, clearly Lord Entropy by another name, had been imprisoned between dimensions by an alliance of heroes from multiple realities. "The 7 Seals of Order," Diana read aloud. "Artifacts created from the essence of each universe, used together to contain Lord Entropy in the void between dimensions." "But the seals weakened over time," Flash continued, scanning further down the text. "As the universes evolved and grew apart, the connections between them faded, and the binding power diminished. Now he's free and trying to cause a dimensional collision to feed his power," Naruto summarized. "And Orochimaru is helping him because he thinks he'll get to play mad scientist in the new universe." "According to this," Raven said, pointing to a passage near the end, "the only way to restore the seal is to gather artifacts of power from each affected dimension, objects that represent the fundamental forces of each universe." "From your world," Diana looked at Naruto, "something that embodies the nature of chakra at its purest." "And from this world, something that represents the core essence of our reality's creation," Flash added. The text mentioned specific locations, Raven noted. "Places where the dimensional barriers are naturally thin, where objects of power would resonate most strongly." "Does it mention Azarath?" Diana asked suddenly. Raven's eyes widened as she found the reference. "Yes, my home dimension. It says Azarath exists at the crossroads of multiple universes, making it the ideal focal point for restoring multiversal barriers. So we need magical artifacts from multiple dimensions, and we need to take them to Raven's home to perform some kind of supersealing ritual," Naruto summarized. "No problem. Where do we start?" Flash pointed to a map that had appeared on the scroll as if drawn by an invisible hand. "These points mark the locations of potential artifacts in each world. One is here on Themyscira, the Gauntlet of Harmonia." "Mother," Diana turned to Hippolyta, who had been listening silently. "The gauntlet has been in Amazon custody since the founding of Themyscira. Can it be used for this purpose?" The queen considered this gravely. "The gauntlet was entrusted to us by the gods themselves, to be used only in times of greatest need." After a moment, she nodded. "This qualifies. I will retrieve it from the sacred vault." While Hippolyta went to secure the artifact, the team continued studying the prophecy. According to the text, they would need at least 3 artifacts from each affected dimension, objects that embodied creation, preservation, and transformation. "From my world," Naruto thought aloud, "something like the Sage of Six Paths treasures might work. They were created by the founder of all ninjutsu. The scroll suggests the artifacts will reveal themselves to those who carry the right energy signature," Raven said. "Your unique combination of chakra and speed force should allow you to sense the objects from your dimension." Hippolyta returned carrying a small golden box. When she opened it, a gauntlet of shimmering metal lay inside, covered in intricate etchings that seemed to move and shift as they watched. The Gauntlet of Harmonia, the Queen explained. Created from metals forged at the birth of this universe, imbued with the power to restore balance to that which has become chaotic. As Diana carefully lifted the gauntlet, a tremor ran through the ground beneath them. The air rippled, and for a brief moment, everyone saw overlapping realities again, the Amazon library and what looked like the Hokage's private scroll room in Konoha. The dimensional barriers continue to weaken, Raven warned. We don't have much time. Then we split up, Diana decided. Flash and I will locate the remaining artifacts from our world. Naruto and Raven, you'll need to find a way to access his dimension to retrieve the artifacts from there. How exactly are we supposed to do that? Naruto asked. The rifts are unstable and random. Not entirely random, Raven corrected. They're appearing at points of dimensional resonance, places where your world and ours have similar spiritual or energetic qualities. And with your combined energy signature, Flash added, you might actually be able to generate a controlled rift, a stable bridge between dimensions. Naruto wasn't entirely convinced, but he nodded anyway. Worth a shot. But where do we start looking for these artifacts in my world? The scroll mentions a Temple of Convergence in your world, Diana said, pointing to the text. A place where natural energy gathers most strongly. Naruto's eyes widened in recognition. Mount Mayaboku, the Toad Sage Mountain. It's a natural energy hotspot and home to the Toad summons who taught me sage techniques. Then that's your destination, Diana concluded. Once you have the artifacts from both worlds, we rendezvous at Azarath to perform the sealing ritual. As they prepared to depart, Hippolyta approached Naruto, studying him with those piercing eyes once more. You carry a great burden, young warrior, she observed. Two powerful forces now share your body, and the fate of multiple worlds rests on your shoulders. Story of my life, Naruto replied with a wry smile. I've been carrying Kurama since the day I was born. Adding the Speed Force and a multiversal crisis is just keeping things interesting. The Queen actually smiled at that. You have the heart of a true hero, one who faces darkness with light in his eyes. She placed a hand on his shoulder. May Athena grant you wisdom for the journey ahead. Outside the palace, the team made final preparations. Diana and Flash would take the Bat plane, sent remotely by Batman, to track down the remaining artifacts, while Naruto and Raven would attempt to create a stable passage to his dimension. Remember, Flash told Naruto seriously, if you feel the Speed Force becoming unstable, pull back immediately. Dimensional travel puts enormous strain on the connection. And be careful with your chakra reserves, Diana added. From what you've told us, your world operates on different energy principles. You may find your abilities working differently there. Naruto nodded, then turned to Raven. Ready to see where I come from? As ready as I'll ever be to leap into another dimension with experimental techniques, she replied dryly, but there was a hint of something like excitement in her eyes. They chose a secluded meadow for the attempt, away from the Amazon city where any energy backlash would cause minimal damage. Raven began by casting a containment spell, creating a dark energy dome around them to prevent dimensional leakage. Now, she instructed Naruto, focus on your connection to your home world. Picture a specific location, somewhere meaningful to you, somewhere your energy would naturally resonate. Naruto closed his eyes, thinking of Konoha, the Hokage monument, his apartment, the training grounds where Team 7 first came together. But the strongest image that came to mind was the Valley of the End, where he and Sasuke had fought their final battle, where the fate of the shinobi world had been decided. I've got it, he said, beginning to channel his harmonized energy. Good. Now extend your consciousness along that connection. The Speed Force exists between dimensions, use it as a bridge while anchoring yourself with your chakra. Naruto had never attempted anything like this before, but somehow it felt natural, as if the Speed Force had always been a part of him, just waiting to be awakened. He extended his senses along the dimensional currents, searching for the unique energy signature of his home world. Lightning began to crackle around him, but controlled now, moving in perfect harmony with his chakra. The air before them shimmered and distorted, gradually forming into a swirling portal similar to the rifts they'd encountered but stable, its edges clearly defined. "It's working," Raven said, surprised and impressed. "The portal is stabilizing." Through the opening, they could see a landscape of forest and cliffs surrounding a massive waterfall. Two enormous statues faced each other across the falls, the founders of Konoha locked in eternal confrontation. "The Valley of the End," Naruto confirmed. "Looks like it worked." Raven strengthened her containment spell around the portal. "The connection is stable for now, but I don't know how long it will last. We should move quickly." Naruto nodded, and together they stepped through the dimensional gateway into his world. The transition was smooth, nothing like the chaotic journey that had first brought Naruto to the DC universe. They emerged on a rocky outcropping overlooking the valley, the roar of the waterfall filling the air. "So this is your world," Raven said, looking around with interest at the ancient forest and towering statues. "The energy here feels different. More structured, more internally focused." "That's chakra," Naruto explained. "Everything here has it, people, animals, even plants and earth. It's all connected in a big network." He paused, extending his senses to feel the familiar energy of his home world. Something was different. He could still access his chakra as easily as ever, but the speed force felt muted, as if he was drawing it from a great distance. "The speed force connection is weaker here," he observed. "I can still use it, but it's not as strong as in your world." "Makes sense," Raven replied, her cloak billowing slightly in the breeze. "The speed force may not naturally extend to this dimension except through the artificial connections Lord Entropy has created." Naruto was about to respond when he sensed something, multiple chakra signatures approaching rapidly from the direction of Konoha. "We've got company," he warned, turning to face the newcomers. 4ANBU Black Ops Shinobi appeared at the edge of the clearing, their porcelain animal masks concealing their identities. They froze upon seeing Naruto, clearly recognizing him despite his slightly altered appearance. "Naruto Uzumaki," the lead ANBU said, his hawk mask tilting slightly. "You disappeared 3 days ago during a mission. Kakashi-sama has had search teams looking everywhere for you." 3 days? Naruto exchanged glances with Raven. Time flows differently between dimensions. The ANBU's attention shifted to Raven, their postures tensing. "Who is your companion?" "She has no chakra signature we recognize." "She's an ally," Naruto said firmly. "We need to speak with Kakashi-sensei immediately. There's a multidimensional crisis threatening both our worlds, and we don't have much time." The ANBU captain hesitated only briefly before nodding. "Follow us. The Hokage will want to debrief you personally." As they prepared to depart, Naruto glanced back at the portal they'd created. It remained stable, a swirling gateway between worlds floating above the Valley of the End. "Will it stay open?" he asked Raven. "My spell should maintain it for approximately 12 hours, she replied. "After that, we'll need to create a new connection." Naruto nodded, then turned to the ANBU. "Lead the way." The journey to Konoha was swift, the elite ninja moving through the trees at high speed. Naruto kept pace easily, occasionally helping Raven navigate the unfamiliar terrain, though she proved surprisingly agile despite not being a trained shinobi. As they approached the village, Naruto felt a wave of emotion. Seeing the familiar gates and the Hokage monument with its carved faces watching over the village. Even with only 3 days having passed here, it felt like returning home after a much longer absence. The ANBU led them directly to the Hokage Tower, where Kakashi was apparently in an emergency meeting with the other Kage via video communication, a technology that had only recently been implemented following the Fourth Shinobi War. When Naruto entered the room, Kakashi's visible eye widened in surprise and relief. "Naruto," he exclaimed, immediately dismissing the ANBU escorts with a gesture. "Where have you been? And who is this?" On the video screens, the other Kage leaned forward with interest: Gaara of the Sand, Darui of the Cloud, Kuratsuchi of the Stone, and Chojuro of the Mist. It's a long story involving different dimensions, super speed, and an entity trying to collapse multiple universes, Naruto summarized quickly. This is Raven, from another world. She's helping me fix this mess before both our realities are destroyed. There was a moment of stunned silence before Kakashi sighed deeply. Only you, Naruto, could disappear for 3 days and return with an interdimensional crisis. To be fair, Naruto pointed out, the crisis was already happening. I just got pulled into it. Literally. Over the next hour, Naruto and Raven explained everything, the dimensional rift, the speed force, Lord Entropy's plan, and Orochimaru's involvement. The 5 Kage listened with varying degrees of shock and concern. We've detected unusual energy disturbances across the continent, Gaara confirmed when they finished. Near the Sage of Six Paths Shrine in the Land of Wind, unusual lightning storms have been reported, yellow lightning that moves in patterns unlike any natural phenomenon. And one of my sensors reported seeing Orochimaru near the ruins of the Uzushio village yesterday, Kuratsuchi added. We sent a team to investigate but found nothing except residual energy unlike any chakra we've recorded. Speed Force, Naruto and Raven said simultaneously. He's looking for artifacts from this world, Raven explained. Objects of power that represent the core energies of your universe. According to the prophecy we found, we need 3 specific items from this world, Naruto added. Things connected to the creation, preservation, and transformation of chakra itself. Kakashi leaned back in his chair, thinking. The Sage of Six Paths treasures would qualify, but they were sealed away after the war for safety. Except one, Gaara interjected. The Benihiseigo, the Crimson Gourd, remains in Kumo's possession for research purposes. Darui nodded on his screen. It's one of the 5 treasures that conceal specific forms of chakra. If Orochimaru is targeting powerful artifacts, it would certainly be on his list. We need to secure it before he does, Naruto said urgently. And find the other 2 artifacts we need for the sealing ritual. If I may, Raven spoke up, addressing the assembled leaders with respectful confidence. The scroll mentioned a temple of convergence in your world where natural energy flows most strongly. Naruto believes this refers to Mount Myaboku. Kakashi nodded slowly. That makes sense. The Toad Sages have guarded ancient secrets since before the founding of the hidden villages. Then that's our next destination, Naruto decided. We'll travel to Mount Myaboku, consult with the Great Toad Sage, then head to Kumo to secure the Benihiseigo. I'll have my fastest team meet you at the border with the artifact, Darui offered. And I'll send Temari to escort you through the Land of Wind to the Sage Shrine if needed, Gaara added. With the plan established, the meeting concluded. As the video feeds disconnected, Kakashi turned to Naruto with his characteristic eye smile that somehow conveyed both amusement and concern. Only been gone 3 days and you've already picked up new powers and an interdimensional crisis, he remarked. Should I even ask about the lightning? Naruto grinned. Letting yellow electricity crackle between his fingers. Pretty cool, right? It's called the Speed Force. Basically lets me move super fast, among other things. I noticed you arrived at the tower faster than my ANBU escort, Kakashi commented. That's impressive even by your standards. And he's still learning to control it, Raven added. In my world, speedsters can approach the speed of light when fully trained. Kakashi's visible eye widened slightly. That would certainly be useful for a Hokage candidate. Naruto smiled at the reference to his long-term goal, but his expression quickly turned serious. Before anything else, I need to check on something while we're here. Is Sasuke in the village? No, Kakashi replied. He left on a reconnaissance mission to the Northern Territories 2 days ago, after volunteering to join the search for you. Why? Just wanted to make sure he's safe. If Orochimaru's back and powered up with Speed Force abilities, Sasuke might be a target given their history. I've already dispatched a messenger hawk with a warning, Kakashi assured him. Now, how do you plan to reach Mount Myaboku? The traditional summoning method? Naruto shook his head. No time. With my speed, we can get there directly. He turned to Raven. Think you can track a location if I give you the chakra signature to follow? Raven nodded. My abilities work differently here, but yes, I can sense energy patterns and follow them. After gathering supplies and saying quick goodbyes to friends who happened to be in the village, including a tearful hug from Sakura who punched him first for disappearing without a word, Naruto and Raven departed Konoha heading southwest toward the remote mountain range that concealed Mount Myaboku. The journey that would normally take days was covered in hours. Though Naruto's Speed Force connection was weaker in this dimension, it still allowed him to move faster than any normal shinobi, carrying Raven when necessary across difficult terrain. As they traveled, Raven observed the world around her with quiet fascination, the massive forests unlike anything in her dimension, the occasional signs of chakra use in the environment, and the unique blend of traditional and modern elements in the villages they passed. Your world feels younger somehow, she commented as they paused on a mountain ridge overlooking a vast valley. Less layered with different kinds of power. In my world, there's magic, science, alien energies, divine forces, all overlapping and often conflicting. We just have chakra in different forms, Naruto replied, taking a drink from his canteen. Though the tailed beasts and the Otsutsuki clan add some other dimensions to it. He grinned at his unintentional pun. No pun intended. Raven actually smiled at that, a small expression but genuine. Naruto was beginning to realize how rare those smiles were, and found himself pleased whenever he managed to elicit one. By nightfall, they reached the hidden pathway to Mount Myaboku, a special route known only to those connected to the Toad summons. As they began the final ascent, the air grew thick with natural energy, so dense that it was visible to the naked eye as a faint golden haze. This place, Raven breathed, her empathic abilities clearly sensing the power around them. The energy here is incredible, pure and undiluted. Mount Myaboku exists partially in a separate dimension itself, Naruto explained as they climbed. It's one of the sacred animal realms that exist adjacent to the main world. At the summit, they were greeted by a group of Toad sentries who immediately recognized Naruto despite his slightly altered appearance. Naruto boy, a red toad exclaimed. The great sage has been expecting you. He has? Naruto asked, surprised though not entirely shocked. The great toad sage had prophetic abilities that often bordered on the uncanny. Said you'd come with a shadow from another world, the toad confirmed, eyeing Raven curiously. Called for preparations 2 days ago. The toads led them through the misty mountain paths to the central temple, a massive structure built into the living rock of the mountain itself. Inside, pools of oil bubbled gently, filling the air with the unique scent that Naruto associated with his sage training. In the central chamber, atop his customary stone throne, sat the great toad sage, ancient beyond reckoning, his enormous form wrinkled and weathered by countless centuries of existence. Naruto boy, the ancient toad rumbled, his cloudy eyes somehow focusing directly on them. And the daughter of Trigon from the shadow world. The convergence has begun. Raven stiffened beside Naruto. You know who I am. Who my father is. The dimensions have always been thinner here, the sage replied cryptically. I see many worlds in my dreams, including yours, child of Azarath. Naruto stepped forward. Great sage, we need your help. A being called Lord Entropy is trying to collapse our dimensions together, and we need artifacts of power to seal him away. The ancient toad nodded slowly. The devourer between worlds awakens again. This cycle repeats across the eons, the hunger that consumes creation, and the light that must restore balance. He gestured with one gnarled hand, and a section of the temple floor slid away, revealing a deep pool glowing with blue-green light. Behold the pool of worldly wisdom, the great sage announced. In its depths lie reflections of all realities that touch upon this one. And there, he pointed to an object resting on a pedestal at the bottom of the pool, the scroll of heaven's design, the original template from which all chakra flows. Naruto peered into the glowing water. At the bottom, perhaps 30 feet down, sat an ancient scroll case made of what appeared to be jade and gold, inscribed with symbols so old they predated written language. That's our first artifact, he realized. But how do we retrieve it? That water looks different. It is liquid natural energy in its purest form, the great sage explained. Only one who has mastered the balance of energies may touch it safely. Others would turn to stone in an instant. Naruto had experienced petrification during his early sage training when his natural energy balance was off. The thought of diving into a pool of pure natural energy was daunting, even with his sage abilities. And with your new lightning power fighting within you, the great sage added, seemingly reading Naruto's thoughts, the challenge is even greater. The three energies must find perfect harmony, chakra, natural energy, and the foreign power you now carry. Raven moved to the edge of the pool, studying it with both her eyes and her mystical senses. This is similar to the pools on Azarath where reality is at its thinnest. I may be able to help stabilize your energies while you descend. Naruto nodded gratefully, then began his preparation. Closing his eyes, he entered sage mode, drawing in natural energy and balancing it with his own chakra as he'd been taught. But now he had a third element to consider, the speed force that continued to flow through his system, albeit more weakly than in Raven's dimension. Be careful with this, Kurama cautioned within him. The natural energy here is far more concentrated than what you're used to. I know, Naruto replied internally. But we need that scroll, and I'm the only one who can get it. Finding the perfect balance was like trying to stand on a ball that was itself balanced on another ball. Any shift in one energy required immediate adjustments in the others. Sweat beaded on Naruto's forehead as he carefully aligned the three powers, seeking the perfect resonance that would allow him to survive the pool's depths. After several minutes of intense concentration, Naruto opened his eyes, which now displayed a unique appearance, the horizontal pupils of sage mode combined with flickering sparks of speed force lightning. I'm ready, he said, his voice resonating with the combined energies. Raven took up position at the edge of the pool, her hands extended toward Naruto. I'll create a tether of psychic energy to anchor you. If you feel the balance slipping, focus on my presence and use it as a reference point. Naruto nodded, then dove into the glowing waters. The sensation was unlike anything he'd experienced before, like plunging into liquid lightning that simultaneously burned and invigorated every cell in his body. The natural energy tried to infiltrate his system, to overwhelm his carefully maintained balance. He pushed deeper, propelling himself toward the bottom with controlled bursts of chakra. The pressure increased, not just physically but energetically, as if the very essence of the pool was testing his worthiness. Images flashed through Naruto's mind as he descended, visions of other worlds, other times, other possibilities. He saw glimpses of the Justice League fighting creatures of darkness, of Konoha under siege by beings of pure energy, of Lord Entropy's true form, a void in the shape of consciousness, devouring light and possibility. Just when the visions threatened to overwhelm him, Naruto felt Raven's psychic tether pulling him back to himself. Her presence was like a lighthouse in a storm of images, guiding him back to his purpose. With renewed focus, Naruto reached the bottom of the pool and grasped the ancient scroll case. The moment his fingers touched it, the artifact began to glow, resonating with his unique energy signature. Getting back to the surface proved more challenging than the descent. The scroll seemed to have its own gravity, trying to pull him deeper rather than allow itself to be removed. Naruto channeled more speed force energy, using its forward momentum to counteract the pull, while maintaining his perfect sage balance to prevent petrification. With one final push of combined energy, he launched himself upward, breaking the surface of the pool with a splash of luminescent water. Raven's psychic powers helped pull him the rest of the way out as he clutched the scroll tightly to his chest. You did it, she said, genuine admiration in her voice. Naruto lay on the stone floor, breathing heavily as the three energies within him gradually returned to their separate states. That was intense, he managed between breaths. The great toad sage leaned forward, examining the scroll with reverence. The scroll of heaven's design has not been seen by mortal eyes in over 1,000 years. It contains the original chakra formulas created by Hagoromo Otsutsuki himself, the pattern from which all ninjutsu developed. "One down, 2 to go," Naruto said, carefully setting the scroll aside as he sat up. "The second artifact you seek is indeed the Benihiseigo in Kumogakure's possession," the great sage confirmed. "But the third lies in ruins of Uzushio-gakure, your ancestral home, Naruto boy." "Uzushio? That's where Kuratsuchi said Orochimaru was spotted," Naruto realized. "What's there that he would want?" "The Uzumaki clan mask that connects to the Shinigami, the death god," the ancient toad replied. "A tool of transformation that can alter the boundary between life and death itself." Raven's expression grew concerned. "If Orochimaru gets hold of an artifact that can manipulate death barriers while the dimensional barriers are already weakening, the consequences would be catastrophic," the great sage finished gravely. "The walls between all states of existence could collapse simultaneously." "Then we need to move fast," Naruto said, struggling to his feet with the scroll secure in his pack. "Thank you, great sage. We'll make sure these artifacts are used to restore balance, not destroy it." The ancient toad nodded slowly. "Before you go, Naruto boy, there is one more thing you should know. The speed force energy you now carry, it is not entirely foreign to this world." "What do you mean?" Naruto asked, surprised. "In the most ancient times, before chakra was distributed among humanity, certain individuals were touched by what was called the divine wind, a power that allowed them to move between moments, to race ahead of time itself." The great sage's cloudy eyes seemed to look into the distant past. "The legends say they wore lightning as a cloak and could cross the world in the time between heartbeats." "Speedsters," Raven whispered. "Your world had its own version of the speed force." "Not quite the same," the sage corrected. "But related. When Hagoromo standardized chakra among humans, these varied special abilities were mostly subsumed into the general chakra system. But occasionally, bloodlines emerged that echo these ancient powers. Like the fourth Hokage's flying thunder god technique, Naruto realized. Everyone always said he was faster than lightning. Indeed. Your father's affinity may explain why this foreign power has bonded so successfully with you, despite the strain it causes. This new information gave Naruto much to think about as they prepared to leave Mount Myaboku. If the speed force had some ancient connection to his world, perhaps that was why Lord Entropy could use it to bridge the dimensional gap so effectively. With the first artifact secured and a clearer understanding of what they sought, Naruto and Raven set out for their next destination, Kumogakure in the Land of Lightning, where the second artifact awaited. As they departed, the great toad sage called out one final prophecy: when three become one and worlds hang in the balance, look to the heart that bridges all divides. Only perfect harmony can mend what chaos has sundered. The cryptic words followed them as they descended the mountain, adding yet another layer to the already complex mission before them. But with one artifact secured and a clearer path ahead, Naruto felt a growing confidence that they could succeed, if they could reach the remaining artifacts before Orochimaru and Lord Entropy's forces. The race between worlds had truly begun, and the clock was ticking down toward catastrophe or salvation. Chapter 3, Speed Sage Ascendant. The air crackled with tension as Naruto and Raven materialized at the rendezvous point, a secluded cliffside overlooking Gotham Harbor. Diana waited for them, her armor gleaming in the moonlight, the recovered artifacts secured in an ornate box at her feet. "You made it," she said, relief evident in her voice. "I was beginning to worry." "Dimensional travel's gotten trickier," Naruto explained, adjusting the pack containing their own recovered artifacts. "The barriers are so thin now, we almost got pulled into 3 different realities on the way here." After securing the scroll of heaven's design from Mount Myaboku, they traveled to Kumogakure for the Benihiseigo and then to the ruins of Uzushio-gakure, narrowly beating Orochimaru to the Shinigami mask. The journey had been grueling, with reality itself becoming increasingly unstable around them. "We've got all 3 artifacts from my world," Naruto continued, patting his pack. What about yours? Diana opened the box, revealing 3 gleaming objects, the gauntlet of Harmonia they'd retrieved from Themyscira, a crystalline prism that pulsed with rainbow light, and what appeared to be an ancient bronze astrolabe covered in unknown symbols. The prismatic heart from Atlantis and the Chronos astrolabe from Nanda Parbat, she explained. We have everything we need for the sealing ritual. Not quite everything, Raven corrected, her expression grave. According to the texts, we need one final component, an artifact from within the Speed Force itself. From inside the Speed Force? Naruto frowned. Is that even possible? It has to be, Raven replied. The Speed Force connects all dimensions. To seal the barriers properly, we need an object that exists at the nexus point where all realities touch. The Eye of Forever, Diana said, consulting a weathered page of notes. Batman's research suggests it's a crystallized fragment of pure Speed Force energy that maintains temporal stability across the multiverse. Naruto looked skeptical. And we're supposed to just go into the Speed Force and grab it? Flash warned me that entering the Speed Force physically is incredibly dangerous, even for experienced speedsters. Not alone, Raven said, her gaze steady. Together. My powers can create a pocket of stability within the Speed Force, and Diana's divine heritage gives her resistance to temporal distortion. We'll need all 3 of us, Diana confirmed. But first, we must travel to Azarath to prepare the sealing circle. Only there can we safely open a direct portal to the Speed Force. Raven's normally composed expression faltered slightly. Returning to Azarath will be challenging. The dimensional instability may have affected it even more severely than Earth, given its position at the crossroads of realities. Your home, Naruto said softly, recognizing the concern behind her words. In their brief time working together, he'd learned that Raven rarely displayed emotion, but that didn't mean she didn't feel it deeply. She nodded, then squared her shoulders resolutely. I can create a portal directly there, but with the barriers weakening, we'll need something to stabilize our passage. Something like this? Naruto grinned, reaching into his pocket and pulling out a small 3-pronged kunai, one of his father's special flying thunder god markers that he'd retrieved from Konoha. A dimensional anchor, Raven observed, examining the complex seals etched into the weapon. Yes, this could work. The space-time formula in these markings is remarkably sophisticated. My dad was a genius with this stuff, Naruto said proudly. If the Speed Force really does have some ancient connection to my world like the Great Toad Sage suggested, maybe this technique tapped into something similar. Diana checked her communicator one final time. The League is containing the worst dimensional breaches, but they can't hold forever. Batman estimates we have less than 6 hours before catastrophic collapse begins. Then let's move, Naruto said, stowing the kunai and shouldering his pack. Raven took a deep breath, centering herself before raising her hands. Azarath Metrian Zinthos, she intoned, her voice resonating with power as dark energy swirled around them, forming a portal unlike any she'd created before. Instead of the usual circular gateway, this portal spiraled outward in fractal patterns, its edges shimmering with both Raven's dark energy and streaks of Speed Force lightning, the result of Naruto channeling his power through his father's spacetime seal. The dimensional pathways are shifting, Raven warned as the portal stabilized. Hold on to each other. No matter what you see or feel, don't let go. Diana gripped Raven's shoulder with one hand and Naruto's with the other, forming a chain as they stepped into the swirling energy. The transition was immediate and disorienting, like falling through shattered mirrors, each fragment showing a different reality. Naruto saw flashes of alternate worlds, Konoha in ruins, Konoha as a futuristic metropolis, Konoha never built at all. He glimpsed versions of himself, one where he'd never contained Kurama, one where he'd given in to darkness, one where he'd become Hokage as a teenager. Don't focus on the reflections. Raven's voice cut through the chaos. They're dimensional echoes, possibilities, not realities. Naruto tore his gaze away from the fragmented visions, concentrating instead on the pull of Raven's magic guiding them forward. The journey seemed to stretch for both seconds and centuries simultaneously, time losing all meaning in the space between dimensions. Finally, with a thunderous crack, they emerged onto a stone platform floating in a purple-hued void. Towers of white stone rose in the distance, connected by arched bridges that defied conventional physics. The entire realm seemed to exist in a perpetual twilight, stars visible despite the ambient light. Azarath, Raven said, her voice barely above a whisper. Or what's left of it? The city before them was clearly damaged, buildings partially collapsed, some areas appearing to phase in and out of existence. The air itself felt thin, as if the very substance of this dimension was wearing away. The dimensional deterioration is worse here, Diana observed, her expert eyes scanning their surroundings. This realm exists at the junction of multiple universes, so it's feeling the strain more acutely. We need to reach the Citadel of Souls, Raven said, pointing to the largest structure at the center of the floating city. The convergence point where we can perform the ritual. As they made their way across the ethereal landscape, Naruto noticed the environment responding to their presence. Pathways formed beneath their feet as they approached, bridges materializing to connect floating platforms. This place is alive, he realized aloud. In a sense, Raven confirmed. Azarath exists as much in thought as in substance. The monks who created it designed it to respond to need and intention. That's why Lord Entropy hasn't been able to fully destroy it, Diana added. You can't completely unravel a dimension that rewrites itself. Their progress was interrupted by a sudden tremor that shook the entire realm. Cracks formed in the air itself, literal fractures in reality that leaked golden light. Speed Force energy, Naruto identified immediately, sensing the familiar power. It's bleeding into Azarath from the surrounding dimensions. The barriers are failing faster than we anticipated, Raven said, her normally monotone voice edged with urgency. We need to hurry. They quickened their pace, racing along paths that formed just ahead of their footsteps. Naruto resisted the urge to use his Speed Force abilities. In this unstable environment, the extra energy might do more harm than good. As they neared the citadel, a voice echoed around them, deep, resonant, and chillingly familiar. The vessel approaches with the keys, it intoned, seeming to come from everywhere at once. Right on schedule. Lord Entropy, Raven whispered, her face paling even further than its natural tone. A figure materialized before them, blocking the path to the citadel. It was Kronos, the time manipulator they'd fought in Gotham, but changed. His form flickered between solid and energy, his eyes glowing with golden light that leaked from cracks in his skin. My master sends his regards, Kronos said, his voice overlapping with itself as if speaking from multiple points in time simultaneously. And his thanks for gathering the artifacts so conveniently. We've beaten you before, Diana said, drawing her sword. We'll do it again. Kronos laughed, the sound distorting unnaturally. Before, I was merely a man with technology. Now I am a herald, a fragment of Lord Entropy himself, empowered by the collision of timelines. He raised his hands, and the space around them began to distort. Sections of the path aged to dust while others reverted to raw materials. The air thickened with temporal energy so dense it was visible, golden threads of possibility stretching in all directions. He's manipulating time itself, not just local fields, Raven warned, dark energy forming shields around them. He's tapped directly into the temporal aspect of the Speed Force. Then maybe he'll like a taste of the real thing, Naruto growled, lightning crackling around his body as he channeled his power. The two speedsters clashed in a blur of motion and light. Where Kronos had precise control of localized time, accelerating or decelerating specific areas, Naruto had raw Speed Force power and shinobi training. He created speed clones, not shadow clones but afterimages that moved with such velocity they could interact with the physical world for split seconds. Diana joined the battle, her divine weapons cutting through Kronos' temporal fields. Her lasso proved particularly effective, its magical truth-compelling nature disrupting his control over reality distortion. You cannot stop what has already begun, Kronos declared, creating a bubble of accelerated time around himself that aged a section of pathway to dust in seconds. The final collapse is inevitable. My master has waited eons for this convergence. Nothing's inevitable, Naruto shot back, delivering a lightning-fast Rasengan that disrupted Kronos' temporal bubble. I've beaten worse odds before. While Diana and Naruto engaged Kronos directly, Raven worked in the background, her soul self expanding to counter the reality distortions affecting Azarath. The massive spectral raven that represented her true power spread its wings across the dimensional tiers, temporarily stabilizing the area. I need time to complete the sealing circle at the Citadel, she called out. Keep him occupied. Time is exactly what you don't have, Kronos laughed, splitting into 3 temporal duplicates of himself, past, present, and future versions working in perfect coordination. Naruto found himself facing the future version, which could anticipate his moves seconds before he made them. Diana battled the past version, which could revert any damage she inflicted. The present Kronos focused on disrupting Raven's preparations with waves of temporal energy. Pushed to his limits, Naruto accessed deeper levels of his combined powers. Drawing on Kurama's chakra while simultaneously channeling the speed force, he entered a new state, his skin glowing with orange-gold energy, 9 tails of lightning extending behind him. What's this? Kronos' future self actually looked concerned. This power configuration wasn't in my temporal projections. I'm full of surprises, Naruto grinned, his voice echoing with combined energies. The speed force and Kurama's chakra had reached a temporary harmony, working together instead of fighting each other. Moving faster than ever before, Naruto delivered a barrage of attacks that even the future Kronos couldn't anticipate, because Naruto himself wasn't planning them. He was moving on pure instinct, letting the combined energies guide his actions. Meanwhile, Diana had wrapped her lasso around the past Kronos, forcing him to confront the truth of his actions. You are being used, she declared. Lord Entropy sees you as nothing but a tool, a disposable herald to be discarded once the collapse is complete. The truth-compelling power of the lasso forced Kronos' past self to acknowledge this reality, creating doubt that rippled through all 3 versions of him. The temporal coordination faltered, creating an opening. Naruto! Diana called out. The temporal junction point, above his head. All 3 versions connect there. Naruto spotted it immediately, a nexus where golden threads of time converged above the 3 Kronos duplicates. It was their anchor point, the connection that allowed the time manipulator to exist in 3 states simultaneously. Drawing on his father's technique as inspiration, Naruto created something new, a flying Raijin Rasengan infused with speed force energy. The technique combined the space-time manipulation of the flying thunder god with the raw power of the Rasengan and the dimensional properties of the speed force. He hurled the technique directly at the temporal junction point. Upon impact, it expanded into a complex space-time bubble that isolated the 3 versions of Kronos from the rest of reality. What is this? Kronos demanded, his 3 selves trying and failing to escape the bubble. Something I just invented, Naruto replied, concentrating to maintain the technique. A pocket dimension where you can argue with yourself for a while. Time flows differently inside, what feels like minutes for us will be years for you. The bubble condensed until it was the size of a marble, Kronos' protests fading to inaudible squeaks. Diana caught the sphere carefully. Impressive, she said, genuine admiration in her voice. You've combined your world's techniques with the speed force in ways even our most experienced speedsters haven't attempted. Naruto grinned, though the strain of maintaining his enhanced state was evident. Let's just say I had good motivation. With Kronos contained, they hurried to join Raven at the Citadel of Souls, an enormous domed structure of white stone and crystal that pulsed with mystical energy. Inside, they found a vast circular chamber with a raised platform at its center. Ancient symbols covered the floor, walls, and ceiling, some glowing with power while others lay dormant. Raven had already begun preparing the ritual space, arranging the 6 artifacts, 3 from each world, in a hexagonal pattern around the central platform. The sealing circle is almost ready, she reported, her hands tracing complex patterns in the air that left glowing sigils hanging like smoke. But there's a problem. The speed force is becoming increasingly unstable. Creating a safe passage to retrieve the Eye of Forever will be more difficult than I anticipated. How difficult? Diana asked, placing the temporal bubble containing Chronos in a warded alcove. Potentially fatal, Raven admitted. The speed force is reacting to the dimensional instability. It's becoming turbulent, almost storm-like. Entering it physically in this state is exactly what we need to do, Naruto finished firmly. We've come too far to back down now. Diana studied the artifacts arranged around the circle. These 6 items represent the fundamental forces of our universes. What exactly is the Eye of Forever supposed to contribute? Balance, Raven explained. These artifacts embody the separate forces of our dimensions. The Eye exists at the point where all dimensions connect through the speed force. It's the keystone that will bind everything together. Naruto approached the center of the platform, feeling the energies of the artifacts resonating with his unique dual nature. So how do we do this? Just open a portal to the speed force and jump in? Not quite, Raven said. We need to create a specific frequency, a harmonic vibration that will connect directly to the Eye's location within the speed force. Otherwise, we could materialize anywhere in an infinite energy dimension. And that would be bad, Naruto guessed. Fatal, Raven confirmed. Even speedsters who enter the speed force typically have an anchor, someone or something emotionally significant that helps them find their way back. Without that, it's easy to become lost forever. Diana stepped forward. Then we serve as each other's anchors. The 3 of us, connected by the task we share and the trust we've built. Raven nodded, then began instructing them on their positions around the circle. Diana would channel her divine energy to protect them from the raw force of the dimension. Raven would maintain a bubble of reality around them, preventing their physical forms from dissolving into the energy field. And Naruto would guide them, using his connection to the speed force to navigate. Once I open the portal, we'll have minutes at most before Azarath begins to collapse completely, Raven warned. The final dimensional barriers are failing. As if to emphasize her point, a massive tremor shook the citadel. Outside the vast windows, they could see pieces of Azarath literally breaking apart, floating away into the void. In the distance, rifts were opening, tears in reality that showed glimpses of both Earth and Naruto's world bleeding through. It's happening, Diana said grimly. The collapse has begun. Then we're out of time for planning, Naruto decided. Let's do this. Taking their positions, they began the ritual. Raven chanted in an ancient language, her soul self expanding around them protectively. Diana drove her sword into the platform, divine energy radiating from it in waves that stabilized their immediate area. Naruto entered his harmonized state, balancing chakra and speed force energy to create a resonance pattern that matched the frequency Raven had calculated. The artifacts began to glow, each emitting light in a different color that combined into a perfect white beam at the center of the circle. The beam shot upward, piercing the dome of the citadel and creating a spiraling vortex directly above them. That's our doorway, Raven called over the mounting energy. Once we enter, stay connected. If we get separated in the speed force, we may never find each other again. Diana produced a length of her unbreakable lasso, tying it around all 3 of their waists. This will keep us physically connected no matter what happens. With a final surge of power, the vortex descended, enveloping them in pure energy. Naruto felt his body simultaneously lightening and growing heavier, becoming both more and less substantial as they transitioned from normal space into the speed force itself. The sensation defied description. They were everywhere and nowhere, moving at infinite speed while perfectly still. Around them stretched an endless landscape of lightning and energy, punctuated by glimpses of events from across time and space, past, present, and future all existing simultaneously. Stay focused. Raven's voice seemed to come from both beside him and within his own mind. The eye should appear as a fixed point in all this chaos. Naruto tried to concentrate, but the speed force bombarded his senses with overwhelming input. He saw infinite versions of himself racing across countless timelines. He witnessed the birth and death of stars, the rise and fall of civilizations, all in the space between heartbeats. There. Diana's voice cut through the chaos. She was pointing toward what appeared to be a still point in the storm of energy, a crystalline structure that remained fixed while everything else flowed around it. They moved toward it, though conventional. Movement didn't apply here. It was more like they aligned their intention with the destination, and reality adjusted accordingly. As they drew closer, Naruto could see the Eye of Forever clearly, a multifaceted crystal about the size of his fist, suspended in a nexus of energy threads that connected to every point in the speed force simultaneously. "It's beautiful," he whispered, watching as galaxies seemed to swirl within the crystal's depths. "And dangerous," Raven warned. "It exists in perfect balance. Removing it will have consequences." "We don't have a choice," Diana reminded them. "Without it, both our worlds collapse." Naruto reached for the crystal, but as his fingers neared it, the eye reacted, pulsing with light that seemed to scan him. Images flashed through his mind, his parents' sacrifice, his lonely childhood, his struggles with Kurama, his battles alongside Team 7, his arrival in the DC universe, his growing bond with Diana and Raven. The crystal was judging him, testing his worthiness. "It's not just a power source," he realized aloud. "It's sentient, in its own way." "The core of the speed force would have to be," Raven agreed. "It's the consciousness of an entire dimension." Diana and Raven experienced similar scans, their own memories flashing before them as the eye evaluated each of them. Whatever it found apparently satisfied it, because the defensive energy field around the crystal diminished. But as Naruto finally grasped the eye, something went wrong. The moment his fingers closed around it, his dual energies reacted violently. The speed force portion of his power tried to merge with the pure energy of the eye, while his chakra attempted to resist the foreign influence. Pain unlike anything he'd ever experienced ripped through him as the conflicting energies reached critical levels. His body began to flicker, parts of him dissolving into pure energy while others remained solid. "He's destabilizing," Raven shouted, dark energy flowing from her hands as she tried to contain the reaction. "Naruto." Diana gripped his shoulders, anchoring him with both physical strength and emotional connection. "Stay with us. Focus on who you are, not what powers you hold." Inside his mindscape, Naruto found himself torn between two realities. Kurama's domain was breaking apart, chunks of it transforming into speed force energy while others maintained their original form. The Ninetales himself was struggling, his chakra form flickering as the speed force tried to absorb him. "Kid, you need to choose." Kurama roared over the chaos. "Your body can't sustain both energies at these levels anymore. It's one or the other." "No." Naruto refused. "I won't sacrifice either part of myself. There has to be another way. There isn't time. The eye is accelerating the process. You're tearing apart at the molecular level." In the physical world, or the speed force equivalent of it, Diana and Raven fought desperately to keep Naruto intact. Diana's divine energy provided a temporary shield against the worst of the speed force's attempts to claim him, while Raven's soul self wrapped around his fragmented essence, trying to hold the pieces together. "We're losing him." Diana's voice was anguished. "The energies are too powerful." "Not yet," Raven replied with uncharacteristic emotion. "Naruto, listen to me. Stop fighting the energies. Stop trying to control them. If I let go, they'll tear me apart." Naruto gasped, his voice distorting. "Not if you accept them both completely," Raven insisted. "You're still treating them as separate forces that you need to balance. They need to become a single new energy, unique to you." "She's right," Diana agreed, understanding dawning. "Like the paradox of my own nature, born of clay but given life, divine but human." The contradiction itself became my strength. Naruto heard them through the haze of pain and conflict. Accept both completely. Not as separate forces to balance but as parts of a single whole. He looked at Kurama, his partner through so many battles. What do you think? The Ninetales studied him for a long moment. Since when do you ask for my opinion before doing something reckless? Despite everything, Naruto grinned. First time for everything. Then do it, Kurama decided. I've adapted to worse than this lightning dimension of yours. But if we're going to combine them, let's do it right. Together, they stopped resisting the Speed Force's integration. But instead of letting it absorb them, they opened themselves to it fully while simultaneously asserting their own nature. Kurama's chakra, Naruto's human energy, and the Speed Force began to flow together, not fighting, not even mixing, but transforming into something entirely new. In the external world, Diana and Raven witnessed the change as Naruto's fragmented body reformed, now glowing with a unique energy signature unlike anything they'd seen before. It wasn't orange chakra with yellow lightning anymore. It was a new energy altogether, golden with traces of blue and red, moving in patterns that combined the circular flow of chakra with the linear acceleration of the Speed Force. The Eye of Forever in his hand pulsed in response, its facets reflecting the new energy pattern. It seemed to approve of the transformation, its defensive mechanisms fully deactivating. He did it, Diana breathed in wonder. Naruto opened his eyes, which now shimmered with the same golden energy. We need to go, he said, his voice resonating with newfound power. I can feel the dimensions collapsing. With the eye secure, they began their journey back, following the tether of Diana's lasso through the chaotic energies of the Speed Force. But the return proved more difficult than the entry. The dimensional barriers were failing rapidly now, causing turbulence throughout the Speed Force itself. The portal is destabilizing. Raven warned as they neared the exit point. The anchor in Azarath is breaking down. Hold on to me. Naruto commanded, wrapping one arm around each of them. Drawing on his new integrated power, he created a Speed Force bubble around them, a technique similar to what he'd used to trap Chronos, but designed for protection rather than containment. They burst through the collapsing portal back into the Citadel of Souls, only to find Azarath literally falling apart around them. Entire sections of the city were vanishing into a swirling vortex above, while others phased in and out of existence. And standing at the edge of their ritual circle, waiting with a smug smile, was Orochimaru. Congratulations on retrieving the final piece, the Sannin said smoothly. Lord Entropy will be most pleased. You're too late, Diana declared, drawing her sword. We have the artifacts. We'll complete the sealing ritual and stop the collapse. Orochimaru's smile widened. Oh, I have no intention of stopping you from using the artifacts. Quite the opposite, in fact. The ritual is precisely what Lord Entropy has been waiting for. Naruto's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? Did you really think an entity that existed before your universes were formed wouldn't anticipate your efforts? Orochimaru laughed softly. The sealing ritual doesn't imprison Lord Entropy, it completes his transformation. He's lying, Diana said, but uncertainty crept into her voice. Raven quickly examined the artifacts and the ritual circle. The symbols have changed, she realized with horror. The dimensional decay has altered the ritual configuration. Very observant, Orochimaru approved. As the barriers weakened, the ritual adapted. Instead of sealing the dimensions separately, it now creates a controlled collapse, channeling all the energy into a single point. Where Lord Entropy waits to absorb it, Naruto concluded grimly. Precisely. My master planned this eons ago, placing knowledge of the sealing ritual, where heroes like you would eventually find it. So predictable, always rushing to save everyone. Orochimaru's expression turned contemplative. Though I must admit, your new energy configuration is a surprise. My master will be particularly interested in studying you, Naruto-kun. Not happening, Naruto growled, his transformed energy flaring around him. We'll find another way to fix this. There is no other way, Orochimaru replied calmly. The collapse has progressed too far. Without the ritual, both dimensions will be destroyed completely. With it, at least a merged reality will exist, under Lord Entropy's dominion, of course. As much as Naruto hated to admit it, a quick glance at the rapidly disintegrating Azarath confirmed Orochimaru's assessment. The destruction was accelerating by the second. He's right about one thing, Raven said grimly. Without the ritual, everything ends. But perhaps we can modify it, Diana finished, understanding immediately. Change the configuration while maintaining the basic structure. In the next 2 minutes, Orochimaru asked skeptically. Even I couldn't reconfigure such complex dimensional mathematics that quickly. Maybe you couldn't, Naruto replied, his new energy spreading to cover the ritual circle. But you don't have what I have. Drawing on his transformed power, what he was already thinking of as Sage Force, Naruto connected directly to the Eye of Forever. Through it, he could sense the dimensional mathematics Orochimaru had mentioned, the complex patterns that determined how universes interacted. Diana, Raven, I need your help, he called. Feed your energies into the eye. I'll use it to reconfigure the ritual. Without hesitation, they joined him at the center of the circle, each placing a hand on the crystal. Diana's divine energy and Raven's soul self flowed into the eye, combining with Naruto's sage force to create a perfect triad of power. No! Orochimaru shouted, realizing their plan. He lunged forward, but a barrier of golden energy repelled him, the ritual circle activating defensively as the reconfiguration began. Working with instinct more than knowledge, Naruto used the eye to reshape the ritual's purpose. Instead of forcing the dimensions to collapse into each other, they would be reinforced as separate but connected realities, strengthened rather than destroyed. The 6 artifacts began to levitate, circling the Eye of Forever as energy flowed between them in increasingly complex patterns. The symbols on the floor shifted and changed, the original ceiling configuration transforming into something new. It's working, Raven whispered, her eyes wide as she witnessed the mathematics of reality itself being rewritten. Orochimaru made another attempt to disrupt them, this time vibrating his molecules to phase through the barrier. But Diana was ready, her lasso snaring him mid-phase and disrupting his concentration. You've lost, Orochimaru, she declared. Your master miscalculated. The Sannin struggled against the unbreakable rope. This changes nothing. Lord Entropy exists beyond your comprehension. He will find another way. Not this time, Naruto replied, the ritual reaching its crescendo around them. The 7 artifacts, 3 from Naruto's world, 3 from Diana and Raven's, and the Eye of Forever at the center, aligned in a perfect heptagram pattern. Energy surged between them, creating a column of light that shot upward through the crumbling dome of the citadel and into the chaotic void beyond. For a moment, everything went silent. Then a thunderous roar echoed across dimensions as a massive form materialized in the void above Azarath, a writhing mass of darkness and negation that somehow formed a vaguely humanoid shape the size of a mountain. Lord Entropy, Raven whispered, fear evident even in her usually controlled voice. Insects, the entity boomed, its voice shaking what remained of Azarath. You dare rewrite my design? Eons of planning, undone by mere mortals. That's kind of what we do, Naruto called back, his transformed energy blazing around him like a sun. You cosmic types never seem to learn that lesson. Lord Entropy extended a massive hand toward them, dark energy pouring from his fingertips. Then learn from me instead. Witness oblivion. The attack struck the column of light created by the ritual, the 2 forces battling for supremacy. The citadel began to crumble around them as reality itself buckled under the strain. We need more power. Diana shouted over the dimensional thunder. The ritual isn't strong enough to contain him. Naruto looked at the eye in his hands, then at his companions. A plan formed in his mind, dangerous, potentially suicidal, but possibly their only chance. I need you both to trust me, he said, meeting their eyes in turn. Completely. Diana nodded without hesitation. Always. Whatever you need, Raven agreed, her usually guarded expression open and determined. Naruto placed the eye at the center of his chest and channeled his sage force into it. The crystal began to sink into his body, merging with him on a fundamental level. What are you doing? Orochimaru demanded from where he remained bound by Diana's lasso. That level of integration will tear you apart. Maybe in a normal human, Naruto replied, grimacing as the eye fused with his chakra network. But I've had lots of practice with hosting powerful entities. Within his mindscape, Kurama watched with grudging admiration. You really never do choose the easy path, do you, kid? Would you respect me if I did? Naruto asked with a pained grin. Probably not. Let's finish this. As the Eye of Forever fully integrated with Naruto's transformed energy system, power beyond anything he'd ever experienced flowed through him. He became a living conduit between dimensions, a focal point where all realities connected through the speed force. Diana, Raven, channel everything you have through me, he instructed, his voice echoing with multidimensional resonance. I'll direct it at Lord Entropy. Without questioning, they placed their hands on his shoulders. Diana's divine energy, the power of Olympus itself, flowed into him from one side. Raven's soul self, the purified essence of Azaratha's mystic power, entered from the other. Combined with his own sage force and the dimensional nexus of the eye, Naruto became a perfect conduit for power beyond mortal comprehension. Lord Entropy sensed the threat immediately. No. The eye cannot be wielded by a mortal vessel. It is mine by right of ancient claim. Consider that claim denied. Naruto declared, rising into the air as the combined energies lifted him toward the monstrous entity. Lord Entropy lashed out with tendrils of anti-existence, power that didn't just destroy but erased from reality itself. But where they struck Naruto's energy field, they found something unexpected: harmony. The perfect balance of energies from multiple dimensions created a frequency that Lord Entropy couldn't disrupt, because it incorporated aspects of his own power, purified and transformed. You feed on chaos and division, Naruto called out as he rose to face the cosmic entity directly. But we're offering something else: union without loss, connection without consumption. Impossible. Lord Entropy roared, but uncertainty had entered his voice. Dimensions cannot coexist in harmony. The multiverse tends toward entropy, toward me. That's where you're wrong, Naruto replied, the ritual's power flowing through him in waves. Life finds balance. Always has, always will. In my world, we call it the will of fire, the connection that binds us all together across generations. In Diana's world, it's the spark of divinity in every life. In Raven's, it's the soul light that persists even in darkness. As he spoke, the combined energies coalesced into a single perfect technique, not quite a Rasengan, not quite speed force lightning, not quite divine power or soul energy, but something that incorporated elements of all of them. A spiraling sphere of golden light that contained the harmonic frequency of multiple universes in perfect balance. This is for everyone whose lives you tried to erase, Naruto declared, thrusting the technique directly into Lord Entropy's core. Dimensional harmonic Rasengan. The impact was beyond cosmic. Lord Entropy's form didn't shatter or explode, it transformed. The anti-existence energy that comprised his being was reconfigured at the most fundamental level, forced into harmony with the multiverse it had tried to consume. What is happening to me? The entity demanded, its massive form contracting and changing. You wanted to merge with the multiverse, Naruto explained, maintaining the technique as Lord Entropy continued to transform. You're getting your wish, but on our terms, not yours. Instead of consuming everything, you'll serve as the binding force that keeps the dimensions separate but connected. No. I will not be constrained. You don't have a choice, Naruto replied firmly. The Eye of Forever has judged you and found a better purpose for your power. Lord Entropy's form continued to contract until it was roughly human-sized, composed now of swirling golden energy similar to Naruto's Sage Force. It no longer appeared threatening, more like a living constellation of stars arranged in vaguely humanoid form. "What have you done to me?" the entity demanded, its voice no longer shaking reality but still resonant with power. "Gave you a job," Naruto said simply. "Instead of destroying the multiverse, you'll help maintain it. The Eye is using your power to repair the dimensional barriers and establish stable connections between worlds." Around them, evidence of the transformation was already visible. Azarath was rebuilding itself, fragments returning from the void to reconstruct the citadel and surrounding city. The rifts that had torn through reality were sealing themselves, their edges smoothing as proper dimensional boundaries reasserted themselves. "This is unexpected," Lord Entropy admitted, studying its transformed state. "Millions of years of existence, and no one has ever rehabilitated me before." "First time for everything," Naruto replied with a tired grin as he floated back down to where Diana and Raven waited. The moment his feet touched the ground, exhaustion hit him like a physical blow. He staggered, the incredible power that had flowed through him receding to manageable levels. The Eye of Forever remained integrated with his being, but dormant now, its purpose fulfilled. Diana caught him before he could fall, supporting him with her supernatural strength. "You did it," she said, pride evident in her voice. "You actually transformed a cosmic entity." "We did it," Naruto corrected, looking between her and Raven. "I was just the conduit. Your powers made it possible." Raven approached the transformed Lord Entropy, studying it cautiously. "The dimensional barriers are restabilizing. The collapse has been averted." "Yes," the entity agreed, its tone subdued. "I find myself maintaining what I once sought to destroy. A curious sensation." "Get used to it," Naruto advised. "The Eye won't let you revert to your old ways. It's part of me now, and I'll know if you try anything." Lord Entropy regarded him with what might have been respect. "A mortal wielding the nexus point of all dimensions. The multiverse continues to surprise even me." It turned to Raven. "Daughter of Trigon, your home dimension is restored. I sense you have questions about its nature." "Many," Raven admitted. "But they can wait. Right now, we need to ensure the barriers between all affected worlds are properly stabilized." "That process is already underway," Lord Entropy informed them. "The connection between your two primary dimensions, Earth and the Shinobi world, has been reinforced with proper boundaries. Travel between them is possible but controlled, preventing the chaos of unregulated dimensional bleeding." "So I can go home?" Naruto asked, a complex mix of emotions washing through him at the prospect. "If you choose," Lord Entropy replied. "Though the Eye of Forever has bound itself to you permanently. You are now a nexus point yourself, a living bridge between dimensions." The implications of this statement hung in the air as Orochimaru, still bound by Diana's lasso, began to laugh softly. "How ironic," the Sannin observed. "You've become exactly what Lord Entropy wanted all along, a vessel for multidimensional power. Just through a different method than he planned." "Shut up, snake face," Naruto muttered, too tired to properly engage with his old enemy. Diana tightened the lasso. "What will you do with him?" she asked, nodding toward Orochimaru. "His tampering with dimensional forces cannot go unpunished," Lord Entropy decided. "Yet his understanding of the interaction between your world's chakra and the speed force could prove useful in maintaining proper barriers." "You're not seriously considering working with him?" Naruto asked incredulously. "Under strict constraints," the entity clarified. "There are pocket dimensions where his research can continue without risking broader reality, supervised at all times by aspects of myself." Orochimaru's expression was calculating. "A laboratory beyond conventional dimensional constraints. Access to power sources previously unknown. I find this punishment acceptable." "Of course you do," Naruto sighed. "Just keep him away from both our worlds." That is guaranteed, Lord Entropy assured them, extending a hand toward Orochimaru. The Sannin vanished in a flash of golden light, transported to whatever workspace the entity had prepared. With the immediate threats addressed, the three heroes found themselves facing a more personal decision. Naruto looked between Diana and Raven, suddenly aware of how deeply he had come to care for both of them in their shared adventure. So, he began awkwardly, I guess this is where we figure out what happens next. Diana placed a hand on his shoulder. You have a home to return to, friends who miss you, responsibilities you value. But I also have this, Naruto replied, gesturing to the faint glow in his chest where the Eye of Forever resided. According to our golden constellation friend there, I'm some kind of dimensional nexus point now. That comes with responsibility too. Raven stepped closer, her usual reserve softened by the experiences they'd shared. Perhaps your path lies between worlds now, not fully in one or the other, but connecting both. A guardian of the dimensional boundaries, Diana suggested. Ensuring that what happened with Lord Entropy never occurs again. Naruto considered this, the idea resonating with the new power that flowed through him. I could maintain connections without letting the walls fall down. Visit both worlds, protect both. He looked at Diana and Raven meaningfully. Stay connected to people in both. The implication wasn't lost on either woman. Diana smiled warmly, while Raven's cheeks colored slightly. The Justice League would certainly welcome such an ally, Diana said. Someone who could respond to interdimensional threats before they fully manifest. And Azarath could benefit from a protector with your unique abilities, Raven added. Many smaller dimensions remain vulnerable during this restoration period. Naruto grinned. Sounds like you're both offering me jobs. We're offering you partnerships, Diana corrected gently. In whatever form they may take. The moment was interrupted by Lord Entropy, who had been silently observing their exchange. A decision is required regarding the artifacts. They have served their purpose in the ritual but retain significant power. Scattered across dimensions, they could again become catalysts for instability. Can they be neutralized? Raven asked. Not without risking the very stability we have achieved. However, they can be entrusted to suitable guardians in their respective dimensions. The solution seemed obvious to Naruto. The three from my world go back to their proper custodians, the Toad Sages, Kumo, and the restored Uzushio Shrine. The three from Diana and Raven's world return to Themyscira, Atlantis, and Nanda Parbat. A sound distribution, Lord Entropy agreed. I will oversee their return while continuing to repair the dimensional barriers. With a gesture from the transformed entity, the 6 artifacts rose into the air and vanished in flashes of light, returning to their respective worlds. That just leaves us, Naruto said, turning back to his companions. And me figuring out exactly what being a dimensional nexus point means for my day-to-day life. Diana laughed, the sound warm and genuine. I imagine it means a great deal of running between worlds. Good thing I've got the speed for it, Naruto replied with a grin. Raven's expression grew serious. The power you now contain, the Eye of Forever merged with your unique energy, it's unprecedented. You'll need guidance learning to control its full potential. Are you volunteering? Naruto asked, meeting her gaze. A small smile curved her lips. Someone needs to make sure you don't accidentally collapse reality while figuring things out. And I know the perfect training ground, Diana added. Themyscira has spaces specifically designed for those learning to control divine powers. My mother would grant you access, given your role in saving both our worlds. The future began to take shape in Naruto's mind, not abandoning his home or his dream of becoming Hokage, but expanding his role to something broader. A protector not just of Konoha or Earth, but of the delicate balance between dimensions. With Diana and Raven as his partners, guides, and, perhaps something more, as their relationships continued to develop naturally. All right, he decided, a familiar determination filling him. I accept the job, Naruto Uzumaki, Speed Sage and Guardian of Dimensions. He winked at Diana. Think that'll fit on a Justice League ID card? Diana laughed again. We'll make it work. First things first, Raven said practically. We should return to both worlds to ensure the restoration is proceeding properly. Your friends will want to know you're safe, and the League will need a full report. Naruto nodded, then concentrated on his new power. The Eye of Forever responded instantly, creating a shimmering doorway in the air before them, a stable portal between dimensions. Ladies first, he said with a playful bow. As Diana and Raven moved toward the portal, Naruto took one last look at Azarath, now fully restored, its white towers gleaming in the perpetual twilight. Then he looked at Lord Entropy, still watching them with its constellation-like form. I'll be checking in on you, he warned the entity. Regularly. I would expect nothing less from my jailer, Lord Entropy replied, its tone unreadable. Until we meet again, Speed Sage. Naruto turned and followed Diana and Raven through the portal, stepping not into one world or the other, but into a new life that would bridge both. The Speed Force lightning trailed behind him, now permanently infused with the golden energy of his harmonized power, a visible sign of the transformation he had undergone. Behind him, the portal closed smoothly, leaving no trace of instability or dimensional weakness. Just a proper doorway, ready to be opened again when needed by the one who now held the key to all realities within himself. The adventures of the Speed Sage had only just begun. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.